Denise, could we crank the air conditioner down a little more?
We actually, to adjust it, is up at in the attic.
We have a ladder, Steve.
Yeah.
Like my jacket.
It's always either hot or cold. It's a terrible
Like a meatloaf.
air conditioner.
Okay, I think we're about to get started. Do we have another microphone or?
We do.
Okay.
No, I'm good. I'm joking. I'm fine. I'm joking. Thank you for offering. I'm always cool.
Thank you.
It's never hot enough for me.
Okay, so I am going to turn on the recorder. The time is now 9:37 a.m. I am going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, April 12th, 2021. First item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Bracco, Steve Kleinglass, Ernest Booker,
Present.
Carl Shorba. On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blannon. District Council Andy Cohen is present. District Engineer Rick Schoppeger is present. Denise Payton, General Manager of the River Club, is present. Keith Livermore, Field Manager, is present. We have John Tolborg, Senior Field Services Manager, on the phone, and I did see Roy Deary from Vesta present as well. Before we move forward with the public comment portion of the agenda, Supervisor Booker will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving forward with our agenda, the next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Bill Shea. Bill?
Good morning. I just wanted to come here and communicate the appreciation the board provided. As many of you know, and as we've had in communications to this board as well as to the POA, we have a number of homeowners that haven't been happy with some of the notifications they've received. Those notifications predominantly focused on traffic regulations. And that's an area where the POA and the CDD have to work together to really execute, as the courtesy patrol and the POA work together to make that happen. We held a workshop that was very helpful in letting each of the organizations know what were some of the issues, what was causing the problems, and what could we do about those. And I can only say that it was a good result that we had. As a matter of fact, very shortly after that board meeting, Rich communicated with the golf club, and there was a clear message conveyed as far as what we could do to improve safety while driving golf carts. As you saw, the e-blast that came out, that was an additional communication reminding people of driving golf carts, but also the other traffic regulations. And so that workshop in and of itself led to communication that is fundamental to what we need to do. Without question, the number of people who are not here continuously, without question, we need to communicate so that they're reminded each time, and that is a way to do that. So what I wanted to do was just to highlight, because here in the next few weeks, the POA board will take up some of the changes that were suggested, making the rules for speeding easier to understand and to comply with, making the rules, especially for parking, to understand and comply with. And so in the POA board meeting of the first week in May, we will be taking that up. We held a preliminary discussion in April, but because public was not notified in time, we could not actually take it to a vote. So there has been good discussion in the Rules Committee, the ACC, and the POA, And in the next few weeks, we will take those up and vote on those. And it is thanks to the input from the board, enabling us to really address a couple of things. I want to highlight one in particular because it is the most significant emotional reaction that we have seen. We will be taking up the question of who is responsible when a contractor speeds or parks illegally in this community. That has been a hot button. In front of you was a person that raised that point. And so we will be taking that up in the May board meeting for the POA. There's actually information in the declaration that helps us to confirm the answer to that. And so I wanted you to know that that's something that a number of people, and we just had another instance of the same thing, that causes a challenge. And there's no reason why we cannot hold contractors accountable. We already have some means. But that's what I wanted to do. And then say also, Rich agreed and supported us. We're going to be holding these workshops going forward as the need arises. So you'll hear more from those reports. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Roger Quinn.
Good morning. Just very briefly, I would like to ask the supervisors if they would postpone any votes on any voting on the tennis rules that have been on the agenda, at least until August or September, in order to give the new management company a chance to assess what's going on here and maybe get more involved in some of these rules that are coming up. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Isn't there an April 26th rule?
Yeah, our next,
rule procedure meeting?
Our next board meeting on April 26th.
Yes,
We are having a rules discussion, which is an open meeting.
we are having a public hearing.
Public hearing.
And then, depending upon what the board decides, potential to adopt some new rules. One of the things, I'll bring it up now, one of the things I was gonna say that I need in anticipation of that meeting, and I've mentioned it before, is a red line, so that it is clear what changes we want to make to any of the existing rules. And then, yes, we will have the opportunity for public comment. The board can have their discussion. You can make a decision to make any changes at that time, postpone it, whatever you decide. But we have it all teed up. We have all the ads have been placed, et cetera.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jerry Quinn.
I would like to talk about today's agenda, specifically tab number 1 under review and discussion regarding the tennis rules. If this new rule is enforced because Charlie is blocking these courts, it should also affect all the courts that Charlie blocks. And they should be open to all the Venetian residents, except that they may be segregated according to gender and level of play. That would include the men's 60s, 70s, 75, 80s, and Jeffco. Also the women's teams, 3-0, 3-5, 4-0, USTA, and Women's Interclub. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Our next speaker is Bill Lochman.
I'm Bill Lochman, and I'm here to, because of what Denise said last Tuesday, these people need to get a life because we are asking to have garbage picked up. Okay, I've been to the courts at 12:30 in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the garbage pails are always overflowing. Me personally, I take it in offense that you said that because this is my life. I've suffered, worked all my life to be here. This is what I have. Same thing with my wife. My wife is still working. So to get a life, where do we go from there? Okay, I thought that was quite rude. And from there, when we go to the tennis court, that's a distraction to us from our everyday horrors that we all live. Okay, so somebody might leave a cup there just because they're thinking about what's going on in their life. From there, you know, big deal, there's a cup there. Have the kids pick it up. You know, it's not that hard. Thank you.
Mr. Lochman? if I
Denise,
can
would you
say
like to comment on that?
something, please? I would. If I can take off my mask out of the way. Here, sorry. You're absolutely right. That was inappropriate. And I give you were at the meeting, and I give you my sincerest apologies. The committee, the chairperson, I apologize. The frustrations I've been having, I let come out, and they shouldn't have. Doesn't matter if I'm frustrated with some of the things going on. I deeply apologize. I was wrong. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks, Billy.
Our next speaker is Debbie Schaefer.
Hi, Debbie Schaefer, 121 Balanza Court. First, I want to thank you guys for all your time and patience with everything you do. I really appreciate it. Second, I do think we need more transparency in finances. I'm tired of hearing all the rumors that go around. Everybody is always talking about what's going on, how much you're spending on the Tiki bar, what's going on with the courts and all this stuff. I just think it would be helpful to have more transparency there. Also, I have a real issue with the golf carts. At the top of Treviso, it's very busy, and the golf carts come out of a road that is for the water treatment. They don't stop. They think they own the road. And so they're coming out, the cars that are coming in move over into the exit lane. We're trying to exit. We think we have a clear path, and then all of a sudden a golf cart comes. There's going to be a big accident there. And everybody speeds there, and I know they're doing the, the traffic guy, but if they could just communicate to the golf carts, have them cross the crosswalk up a little bit or down 10 more feet of the crosswalk. I don't know what is the problem that people can't understand. And then they're the ones that are going like this when we're there and almost going to turn. So I just think that I don't know how to communicate other than to say people who own their own golf carts have to be more compliant with traffic rules.
Debbie, as Bill Shade mentioned before, the POA and the CDD had a meeting about a month or so ago. Since then, you can ask John about the rental carts at the golf court. They all have a sign in them now, that stop signs. A lot of the problem is because we have outside play. I think we have outside people who come into play, don't live in this community, and pass over some of those stop signs. And I agree with you, there could be a major issue, certainly between a car and a golf cart, could happen. Some of them are privately owned carts,
Yeah.
and we have to monitor ourselves. The new GM has made his statements about it, and other than that, I don't know what else we can do. We have notified people, we have called people on it. We also have residents who blow the stop signs.
Oh, yeah.
I play golf at least 3 days a week, sometimes more. At least one of those days, I see either a resident or a work truck blow through that stop sign without even a thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's an issue. It's an issue. We're trying to deal with the golfers. We're trying to deal with the day players that come in, and hopefully
This would
we'll
be
get through it.
definitely privately owned golf carts in the community that use that access road that come out of there. They go in and out, right? They don't go in by the crosswalk, and there's a crosswalk really 20 feet from there. They just come, and I know the service road is easier, but just put a chain up. I mean, they don't go into that water treatment plant very often. Put a chain up and say no golf carts. I mean,
I can look into having a stop sign put there for exiting. I can ask the general manager to do that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Deb.
Our next speaker is Jill Pizarro. Jill?
Thanks very much. I wanted to read into the record an email I sent to the board yesterday about two things, the tennis rules and also the Tiki bar. I want to preface, and I'll be very quick, I promise. And I also highly respect what both Roger and Jerry Quinn said about tennis, and I think we're actually probably on the same page, certainly to a degree, maybe it's just timing. So first, and I'm reading now from the memo. First, regarding the proposed tennis rules under tab 5, I strongly support implementation of the proposed rules. It should be the prime directive of every club or facility to create conditions in which the maximum number of members wanting to enjoy the sport can be accommodated. So how do these proposed rules relate to that remit for our tennis facility? My observation, both as a past rec committee member and chair, as well as a tennis player, is that although we have 3 people servicing our facility, including a pro, the residents are left in the position of running all programs. This is a fact, no matter what you hear from our staff and what was said to Vesta's pro when he was visiting. It seems to me these proposed rules are designed specifically to address real situations that impact the transparent fairness of how our facility is run. Finally, on the tennis rules topic, I sincerely hope the board will consider this has come from a committee that has heard from residents and has voted to recommend the rules to the supervisors as a solution to existing issues. Please do not ignore their advice. Second, a bit of input on the Tiki discussion that will be led by Supervisor Kleinglass. At the outset, my statements are as a resident, and I do not want to create any impression that I'm speaking on behalf of the Facilities Committee, of which I'm a member. I also do not want to preempt anything he plans to say, so will be general in my comments. I was astounded and incredibly pleased that such a large number of residents responded to the Tiki survey. There are clear messages in the results. Though the results won't entirely surprise you, it's the magnitude of the response that struck me, and that is what I ask you to take to heart when thinking about casual dining. The call is loud, clear, and large. Although it would be lovely to have this at the current Tiki location, how many people can that accommodate? Will we wish we had made more seats available? And how many of our needs boxes does it tick off, such as restrooms? We have an alternate spot we can use, the bell tower location, and I believe that must be seriously investigated because of the many benefits it offers. I'm afraid if we don't proceed carefully and thoroughly and get this right, we will regret it, and it will be ignoring the input from the many residents who entered the survey. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Joe.
Our next speaker is Pat Apollonia.
Morning. We've had many instances of work disruptions around the tennis courts and, well, for a while. I think members would appreciate some communication between the CDD and particularly the landscaping company, which I think is very cooperative. We had an instance during a league match probably 3 weeks ago where they were using the gas shrub trimmer to take down the really big shrubs around 5 and 6, and on the side of, because it's backwards, 6. We asked Jake if he would go over and ask them to curtail their disruption. They did immediately. Saturday morning, during the prime time hours, one man was working behind 3 and 4 and on the side of 4 with the equipment, very loud, using a mower, the shrub trimmer, the blower. We've had instances where sand has been blown, where somebody had to go in and ask that that be stopped. So I just ask that we have some communication, that at any time work can be done other than prime time hours, that it be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Our next speaker is Sue. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I think it's Rector.
I think that's right.
Thank you.
I feel a little like Apollonia here this morning. I don't have any complaints. I understand that our management has changed, and I really appreciate everything that's happened here at the River Club since then. I was here for Easter, and it was absolutely delightful. And all the programming, I'll be here Saturday night for the cello, and I just really appreciate all your hard work. And the best thing about Easter is I got the dessert I wanted.
Good for you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
That's nice.
And our final speaker is Bob Ruffato.
Good morning, Bob Ruffato, 326 Montaluna. Good morning. While I'm speaking today as a resident, it's important to note that the Facilities Committee has met twice since your last meeting. The first focused on the resident dining survey. The second time it discussed the information I sent to you a few weeks ago about the benefit of the Bell Tower Bar. I followed the pool bar planning for over a year, and am convinced that expanding the current pool bar cannot satisfy our community. There's not enough space. The current plan accommodates 53 people, but steals space from pool users. And extending operating hours and offering entertainment here annoys both pool users and neighbors. This small, poorly located site cannot satisfy the needs of a 1,400 home community. Not today, not tomorrow. Fortunately, there are alternatives. Last year, Mr. McCafferty suggested building at the end of the lap pool. The architect suggested converting the exercise room. I suggested using the parking area near the pool entry. Each site is better than the current plan. Over the past year, I've talked with dozens of residents, our food and beverage team, and I've done considerable research. I asked the GM of the Venice Golf and Country Club about their success and their plans. I visited new communities. I talked to Vesta, and a resident who has owned a successful restaurant for over 30 years. Everything I've heard, everything I've learned, favors the alternatives. The details are covered in a memo and financial analysis I shared with you a few weeks ago. Residents can obtain copies of those by contacting Belinda or me. Instead of wasting money on the current plan, we should pursue Mr. McCafferty's suggestion to build near the pool bar. This large area, which he dubbed the Bell Tower Bar, can serve everyone without stealing pool space, irritating neighbors, or impacting special events. It is accessible and close to bathrooms. It expands the functionality of our existing dining room and bar, and it can use our existing kitchen. This is the logical spot for a pool bar, and it's a perfect spot for community events. What we build here should not cost more, but even if it does, the benefits are too numerous to ignore. For those hearing about this for the first time, we have over 3,000 square feet of unused space by the preserved colonnade at the end of the lap pool. This space can accommodate hundreds and is not used for special events. This new venue will modernize our community and expand pool space. It's financially practical and could generate assessment-reducing profits. The investment is relatively small and the payback significant. It's time to drop plans to expand the poorly located pool bar and to pursue the bell tower option. If for some reason that fails, we should look elsewhere. The architect said remodeling the existing pool bar was a waste of money. He's right. But now we also know that remodeling the current pool bar will not satisfy community needs today or tomorrow. We have alternatives. Let's pick one and create a value-enhancing amenity that is multifunctional, economical, and enjoyed by everyone.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to close out public comment at this time and move forward with our agenda. The next item on the agenda is the district engineer staff report. Rick?
Could I just say one thing before Rick speaks?
Sure.
I know that our council has to leave by about 12 o'clock today. I would ask that we be we're always efficient, but we be as efficient as possible so that we can get as much done before Andy has to leave.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll try to go fast also here.
Don't take that personally, Rick.
We got the striping repairs. I will recommend that we go with the JJ, the payment at $2,145. The dollars. The second was AAA at $2,198.4. Third was McShay, $2,420. I've had challenges with AAA's promptness in the past. They do great work, but they're just so busy. So this is for various crosswalks and stop bars throughout the community. So I would be looking for a motion to go with JJ.
I make that motion.
Yeah, I can sign that.
Okay, good.
They all use the same product? They use that
Thermo.
plastic product?
Thermo, yes,
Right.
yes.
Well, I second his motion.
Well, it doesn't.
Any discussion?
Do you know when he'll do it?
I'll have to check with them.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Any opposed? Okay,
Okay, the next thing, we were planning to pave Treviso and Balanza last week. The city had requested that they be able to come out to do some corings prior to that, so that kind of delayed us. I think they were out there Tuesday. So anyway, I spoke to the vendor last week. So I'm going to meet with him early this week, and then we'll have it planned for this week. As soon as I know the date, I'll get with Keith and let him know so he could let the residents know that. They took 4 cores out there. And, really what that tells me is at that specific 6-inch location, that's what they found. But anyway, I've not seen the results of that. So if I get to see it, we'll share that with everybody.
I want to say thank you to Keith Livermore for hand-holding, as I put it, when I asked him if he could meet the representative from the city. And thanks again. He not only sent a narrative about it, he took some pictures of it, which was very helpful. So thank you, Keith.
And just to get on the record, we did not direct where to core. We left that totally up to them. We just showed them, here's the streets we're going to repave. The swale repair up to the east of 14, the T, and the west of Bella Vista, the terrace, that was all done. The signage replacement, we had, I think, 3 or 4 stop signs that were in the need of repairs, so those were all done. I did get the email from Lennar wanting to know the status of the sign off for that phase 5. We did go out there to look, and it appears they have cleaned up all the stuff that they had. They would not remove that vines in the back, but it's kind of grown back up. It's green now. Keith said there's nobody complaining. So, but they were referenced to stipulation that says they're not supposed to pull that out or whatever. So, but the rest of the work, they had to dig a swale from that small pond, I think it was 44, up into the reserve, because it was holding at least 12 inches of the water. That's been done. So it appears that it's all done now.
And with your approval, Rick, I'll reach out to them to get the final documents for the conveyance. Sorry about that.
There was a suggestion by a resident some time ago about, rather than pulling this stuff out, can they chip it and just throw it back in? Did they ever consider doing that? Because I realized carrying all that stuff out and, with the rules and all that other kind of stuff are an issue, but I thought this suggestion from a resident might have been workable.
That is. I know whenever we're doing some cleanup type stuff, they ask the vendor, they ask if they could put it in strategic places inside there, and we have allowed that. SwiftMud allows that. Obviously I don't want it to be placed in any of the areas. No. But this was something that we were asking Lennar to help clean up, and when we first walked that, the indication was they were going to do exactly what we had hoped, and then they switched the vendors and they said, no, we're we're going to treat it and we'll let it die.
Okay. Well, in the future, that idea of chipping it, if it's legally permissible, it might solve a lot of problems.
And it is, yes.
Okay.
And that's all I had, unless anybody's got anything for me.
Any questions for Rick? No? Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Supervisors, the next item on the agenda is item number 4A, which is the review of the March 22nd field inspection report. This is behind tab number 2 for your review. We do have John on the line. John, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I will answer any questions, of course, for the report, but there's just 2 or 3 items that I would like to bring your attention to. Item number 31 has been an ongoing issue for well over a year now, and that is the Siltadella on the west right of way outside the gates of Siltadella. This turf, as you all probably recall from past reports, had been reported since it was, the spot was no bigger than a pizza pie pan. And now, clearly from the picture, it is extended pretty much the entire from Laurel Road up to the gates. So I really didn't get a satisfactory response, but this time I was really disappointed because I got a proposal from LMP to replace the turf when I actually asked them pretty much ongoing to replace it at their expense. So I will continue to work with our account manager and LMP to get this replaced, not at the district's expense. And again, that was item 31, and that is on page 4.
Is that part of LMP's contract?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. The next item is number 49, and that is on page 5 of the report. I want to make sure that the Fakahatchee grasses, when I put out a timeline or requesting a timeline, for instance, when is our Spanish moss going to be removed from the trees? When will grasses be completed? I need to know that date. That is the important date. In process it doesn't really give us any information, so there's nothing for us to hold them accountable for as far as the timelines that they provide us. That is what we use to determine when things should be done. So I do want to definitely get dates now when I request these, by what time will this be completed, as opposed to just in progress. And then right close to that, I've asked for root samples to be taken at Schillings Holly on specifically, although it's not isolated to Mestry Place South, this is the worst area. We have some dying Schillings, and prior, of course, to any replacement, we want to know what's killing them. I've asked for the root samples to be taken, but I kind of got a response where it basically says, there's no need or there's no good in taking root samples from a dead plant. Well, clearly I don't want to take them from the dead plant. I want to take them from the surrounding live plants before it gets to there, because there's probably remnants or the beginnings of a fungus in those roots. That's what we would need to determine. So I would still like to get some root samples taken from those plants that are dying. And again, that was item number 52. And then the last item that I want to bring to your attention is item number 70. Abilene Way South has been, we have a hedge there that's actually up on Laurel Road along the chain link fence. It's quickly getting out of control, too high, as well as clearly the cul-de-sac here needing to be trimmed. That's the gold mound that I'm putting in my gold box there, but also the cocoa plum on the backside is getting quite high. But had a good inspection. I will be back on the 19th for our follow-up inspection, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
John, this is Rich. I had a question for you that came in from a resident the other day about Veneto and Treviso. Some pictures sent. If you could take a look at that area, it looks like the sod is all burned out or dead or whatever.
I sent that off to our account manager this morning.
Okay.
And he responded back to me saying that the sod has been ordered.
Oh, okay.
And it will be taken care
of. Okay, and you're going to respond to the residents?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I think was that Keith? Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
Actually, that proposal has been approved. I believe you're talking about when you're leaving Treviso looking across Veneto. Yes.
That's right.
A proposal for that. Yes, and that's been approved.
Okay.
I have a question on item 58. You point out an irrigation issue, but if I look at that, let me get to, I think it's 58.
You might be thinking of 67, same
Uh,
page?
No, it's 58, make sure the irrigation was, maybe it's 57. It's item actually 57, and you don't have any other action related to it, but I think this goes back to Rick McCafferty, the landscape committee, and what we're doing with budget. I mean, these things just look ugly, the way we planted these around, in my opinion, it's my single opinion, around these cul-de-sacs, and also the issue around the River Club cul-de-sac. I mean, these are, like Rick and the committee, along with LMP, are taking care of coming into the entryway and making it look more pleasant for us. I just think these are overgrown. They don't do much for what I would call the natural beauty of our committee. And it's just a general comment on my standpoint. From my standpoint, Rick probably has some comments later on, that if we can continue to look forward on the landscaping budget to take care of these issues, I think we'll be better off in terms of a beautification process.
We're moving, that's why I'm so dressed so nicely. Oh, God, we're not connected, typical. Help fix it. There it is.
Got it?
Got it. What a guy.
Do you want your shield?
I'm good. Oh, yeah.
It's the one with the
Thank you.
donut smear on it.
Before we move forward, the record shall indicate that Supervisor McCafferty has joined the meeting at 10:12 a.m. Are there any other questions on the report for John? No? Okay, John, we do want to keep you for the next two items.
Okay.
The first item is the consideration of the LMP proposals based on the field inspection report items, which are behind tab number 3.
This involves the palm trees and all that stuff?
The first one was actually to add a total of 4 yards of lava rock to the pool area.
That's already been done.
Yeah, it's been
That was
done.
done already.
What number are you on, Belinda?
Page 29, which is tab 3.
I know, but what number? You have got these numbered 1 through whatever.
The estimate number?
Yeah, that numbers.
You need the estimate number?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
705.
The lava rock has already been done,
Okay,
so that was in the, around by the pool.
okay. John, the replacement of the turf across Benito from Montaluna.
Yes, it's another area that's somewhat similar to what we previously spoke about at Treviso, where we have some crosswalks and there's some stressed out turf on the opposite side from the entrance of Montaluna on Benito.
Okay. So that proposal was for $600, and then we also have the proposal to fill in the bare areas on the buffer near Pond 58 on the west side of Citadela.
Yes, and that is inside the gates. As soon as you turn off Pizarro to exit, directly to your right, you have a pond bank, and then there's homes directly, not too far over, it's not a very large pond. And this is basically to create a visual buffer there so that the folks don't have to look at headlights coming in their homes at night.
And this would be firebush, correct?
Yes, dwarf firebush, the firefly compacta variety. So it's a little bit smaller.
And that's all in the chair's authority unless there's any objections. from
It is.
board members.
I have no
Well,
Are there any objections with the chair approving these estimates?
Well, he said something about lights at that gate. That's an exit gate.
Yes. What I'm talking about, sir, is like if you are heading, say, west on Pizarro, and you make a left on the Delta to go out as the cars turn at night. They go right across that pond because there's nothing there to block headlights into the backs of those homes.
Okay.
Are there any objections?
I have no problem with it.
No?
So the next item for your consideration would be the proposal for the Medjool Palms OTC injections.
Is the purpose of the injection fertilizing, or is it insecticide, or what?
It's OTC, oxytetracycline. Basically, it is to keep the disease, which used to be called TPPD, Texas Phoenix Palm Decline. It's now called lethal bronzing. It's to keep that disease in check.
Okay.
And as long as, they used to say, as long as less than 25% of the fronds on a palm are not showing symptoms, you can usually keep it under control. The new doctor in charge now is basically saying if your palm starts to show signs of lethal bronzing, the best thing to do is get that palm out. So what we're doing here is 122 Medjools get one injection every quarter. And each time it is $25 per shot. And you basically do that for the life of the palm.
Okay. And those are very expensive palm trees, if I recall, right?
Yes. They range in price from $1,800 to up to $2,500 depending on the height.
I have no problem with that either.
Yeah, again, this is in the.
Objection?
No objection. That's in the budget, anyway.
Okay. Perfect. Are there any other questions for John?
John, is there still a plan to put a buffer on the River Club parking lot?
Yes, and Belinda and I did discuss those proposals. As you all recall, I think a month or two ago, I brought it to the board's attention too.
Yes.
So Belinda, I believe you were discussing those with Mr. McCafferty, is that correct?
Well, I need to discuss 3 that we separated with Rick.
Okay. And I believe two of them are the River Club parking lot.
They are.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for John?
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Could we possibly go to I?
Sure. You want to go to the discussion regarding the Tiki Bar survey results?
I'd really appreciate it.
Okay. Is the board in agreement that we move that item up?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
Fine with me.
Okay, so we are going to move item number 4I up, which is the discussion regarding the Tiki Bar survey results and recommendations. Mr. Kleinglass?
Well, all of the board members should have seen the results probably a month ago now. This was to be discussed at our last meeting. They got canceled. We can go through it. The survey results were responded to by almost 1,000 respondents. And by my way of knowledge, that's the largest response we've ever had to a survey here. There were just a few questions, and we purposely designed the survey to be short so that people would respond. I think the highlights of the survey, do you prefer casual dining or fine dining? It was a mixture of both. What people wanted when we asked about what would you like to see at the Tiki Bar, the responses were food prepped at the Tiki Bar, about 45%, full bar, almost 60% or better. Large TVs, a small response. Extra shade got the unanimous full response of people. The interesting thing was air cooling system out there got a very low response. And then lunch got another high response. The last question was, what price range would you be most comfortable with a renovation out there? 80% of the respondents said between $355,000 and $750,000. 20% said over $750,000. The Facility Advisory Committee looked at the survey prior to the last scheduled meeting of the CDD board, and we're prepared to make the following recommendation to this board. That the architect be directed to consider the renovation at the existing location to include an add alternate item to put in a modest kitchen at that location. That recommendation never came to this board. The Facilities Committee had the opportunity to meet again, and there was another recommendation that came about, and that was to consider having the architect look at building something out here on the site outside of the existing bar. I'd like there to be some discussion about all of this in some direction, please. Let me finish and then we'll get to questions.
I thought you were.
No, not done yet. I've asked both the architect and our food service consultant to do no more work because I want to be able to give them some specific and clear direction about what we would like to have done here. Because I just don't want to continue to expend resources to these individuals. So there is no current work going on. I would point out that in past, there were 3 locations that were considered to perhaps do something with the Tiki hut. And all of those recommendations continue to yearn back to the existing site and trying to do something out there. There has been some discussion, and you've heard some comments about if we do this in another location, we're going to make all kinds of money and perhaps reduce an assessment. I'm not willing to accept that because I don't know that those financial analysis really ring true. And the other thing that I think that we really need to have some discussion about today is at an all-resident meeting about 2 years ago, we got a clear message that residents were willing to spend what we would consider a modest amount on the renovation of a Tiki hut. We know from past work we did that dollar amount is someplace in the $300,000 to $700,000 range. And I use that range very loosely because we've had 2 vendors tell us words to that effect, but we don't know exactly what we were going to get out of that. So I think we need to have some discussion about that. And then finally, I'd ask, how are we going to finance whatever we eventually decide to do here? Where is that money going to come from? And I think we all know that our residents are not interested in an assessment to do this. So I'll stop. I'm done for now. Please.
Steve, you didn't talk about the response to the second question.
Please. The second question was, what would you use the Tiki bar if renovated and expanded? And the answers were 34% said yes, 65% said no.
So 65% of the respondents said, if we do this, they won't come. You know the line from Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Right.
Our residents are telling us, Steve, if we build it, they won't come. We asked them, do they want to renovate it? There's no question that it needs to be renovated. That's been universal, that work needs to be done on the existing Tiki bar.
Right.
But putting a kitchen out there, this constant desire to put a kitchen out there, which pushes the cost through the roof, when we already have a kitchen, I don't think that you've got any kind of a mandate here at all to do a kitchen. I don't see it. I don't have my copies. They're buried in the house someplace. No, that's okay. I have my notes on the copy. But the thing that stuck out the most to me was that second question, where the people told it. In the first one, they said, yeah, renovate it. And then the second one said, if you renovate it, we won't come there. So I don't see how your committee could overlook that and continue on with the kitchen and the big renovation. Richie suggested sail shades 2 years ago. And, that takes care of the shade issue with a hell of a lot less than $750,000.
Well,
so from my 2 cents worth, Steve, what we should do is hire a commercial kitchen designer to go in and redesign the existing tiki bar and put in the materials and the machines that they need to do the job that they do out there. That,
Okay, let me.
and I've said that from day one, so it's nothing new, as you know.
I hear you. So I think the shade issue is two parts. Getting some shade over the area out there where we consider the Tiki location is one part of it. I think there's other issues with shade around the main pool itself.
But that's,
I'm with you.
I'm not against shade. I'm a pro-shade guy.
I'm with you.
I'm an anti-kitchen guy from day one, as you well know.
I hear you.
Okay. But I think your resident, again, I just repeat it one more time. I think the residents have told us, don't put a kitchen out there. Don't spend $750,000.
Well, I don't want to say what the number is, and I've always been careful about, because we don't know here.
Right.
What I think we do know is that we all agree that there needs to be a renovation out there. There's no question about that amongst all of us. I think we all know that getting some shade out there is a priority. We also have heard from some of the experts that if you don't put this kitchen out there, you're going to be making a mistake longitudinally. Whether we accept that or not is up for debate forever. So I'm comfortable either way, but I do think it's time we move this project along.
Are those experts going to be the people that are going to eat there? Because our residents aren't. Well, we asked them, they told us, how can we ignore it?
Okay. Well, let me say this. We spend a lot of resources on other amenities here that a very small portion of our residents use, and we know that. So is this an amenity here or not an amenity? My own opinion is that if we consider this site out here, that is going to get into an expense that I think is way beyond what we can tolerate here. That's my own personal opinion about it. So I'm good either way here, but I do think we need to make some decisions and talk about how we're going to finance this thing if we do anything here.
I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Carl, you'll have to speak up or I can't hear you. I'm sorry, buddy. Thank you.
I'd like to take.
All right, Carl.
I'm thinking of Saturday Night Live in the heart of hearing.
Please.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, my God.
Just a couple observations from my standpoint, because I was part of the facilities committee that started this back 3 years ago or so, Steve.
Right.
Yes, there was recommendations that something had to be done out there. I do know in the process, without a kitchen, estimates came in around $350,000 to $400,000. Okay, whether that's the right decision, I'm not sure. We've talked about the bell tower area, which I think you first brought up, Greg.
I did.
And that may be a feasible option. I would say, however, that I understand the need to continue to move forward, Steve, so don't hit me when I say this.
We're fine.
And I'm looking at my notes here. I'm wondering if whatever action we decide to take, and I think we need some more input, can't this decision be made into the, the 2022, 2023 budget? Because we're still working with COVID, how many people we can put in the dining room, and I think Ms. Payton has some recommendations to increase dining here, to increase revenues. We have Vesta on board, and not to muddy the waters, but they are into project management and they have managed cafes and things of that nature in their process. I don't know if it behooves us to ask Vesta to help us out on that or not. So those are essentially my comments.
Okay, all right. Let me just, for 1 minute, for everybody's edification, the 3 sites that are being talked about, not recommended, talked about, is doing something at the existing Tiki Hut, the discussion out here about perhaps doing something right outside the arch by the bar. And then there was discussion about doing something where the bicycle racks are adjacent to the tennis courts. Those were the 3 sites that we're talking about. Please, Ernest.
Okay, I guess of the supervisors that patronize the pool, I'm probably number 1. Okay, because I seldom see anybody else out there.
You saw me once.
Once. Yes, okay, and rightly so. Shade is number 1 issue. You have a lot of space there taken up by plants and things of that nature. It's a waste of space. But I think we need to look, if you're looking at it from a revenue point of view, where can we gain the most amount of money? Then obvious is liquor, okay, and the upgrading the bar. Now, I like to tell my wife that I've watched Sarasota Memorial Hospital design the hospital and build it, and we're still talking about this Tiki bar. Okay. I mean, they will open before we know what we're going to do with this Tiki bar. I think one of the issues we could address, food, labor. You add a designated person who works here in this kitchen to service outside. And then if it's seasonal, it's seasonal. If it's not, it's not. We can address that immediate issue as we sit back and, and try to decide what we're doing. But it's clear to me, nothing's going to happen here for another 3 to 4 months. So that's my just observations and comments. That's all.
I think that a scaled back renovation is what the community is asking for. I don't think a kitchen is necessary. We have kitchen facilities here. I think we can address some issues that people have had. For example, there was a resident that sent in a concern about waiting an extended amount of time to put in orders. And we can't say it's because the kitchen is there. We can address that issue maybe with iPads and that go directly into the kitchen, as many restaurants do today, rather than on a piece of paper and run it back and put it up there for chef to see. There are simple ways that we can deal with that sort of thing. But going back to my first comment, I think we need to renovate the place. I think that's what the residents want. I don't think we need to build a kitchen area out there. I think people don't come for fine dining at the Tiki bar. They're looking for a sandwich, maybe they're looking for a hot dog, that kind of thing. But they're not necessarily looking for salads, quick things. That's what they're looking for, If they want something more, they come inside for lunch or they sit out here. That's my opinion. That's what I'm reading from the comments I've heard from the community.
Denise, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. Actually, I do. A couple of comments. One, Mr. McCafferty, regarding the 60%. That does, 60% said, I won't come. The others, you're assuming will. You have to understand, too, that only less than 10% of this community uses the tennis. Less than about 25% uses the pool. And probably only 45% uses on a regular basis the dining room. We have those who come once or twice a year for big events. So it's never going to be, we can't have 100% going out there. That's 2,800 people. The Tiki bar would take up the whole back lawn if we were wanting to accommodate those. The other comment regarding the kitchen, first of all, it's not hand done brought. We actually have computers. It goes directly to the kitchen. The issue is a server who has to run back and get the food. A couple of weeks ago on a Saturday or a Sunday, they had 200 meals go out there and a manager ran 50 himself. 50 meals back and forth. And he did, I can't remember how many miles he said, like 69,000 steps in 2 hours or something. It was ridiculous. And then the time of this person going. So I think he said we had 4 or 5 people running food alone. If they would have been all hourly and not a manager, that cost of just running food is crazy. And then the wait time for it is also difficult.
The wait time was to make an order, not to get the food.
Right, that one comment was to make an order because there was one person, somebody called off, and they did have to wait in line. Once the order was in, probably a 20-minute wait.
Yeah, so 45 minutes all told.
Right. Regarding staffing at the Tiki Bar, if we keep it like it is, it'll be just bartenders. But remember, in the kitchen, that you have staff that are sous chefs, executive chefs, pantry chefs. You've got expensive people back there. These are not line cooks. If you had a Tiki Bar with a kitchen, you're dealing with $10 to $12 an hour. You're dealing with McDonald's prices on labor. You're not going to be paying $17 an hour for somebody to flip hamburgers. So there's a little savings there. But there's just pros and cons in everything. But if you were to put it here, yes, it's closer to restrooms, closer to kitchen. That is a convenience thing. But remember, every time there is a dinner, a luncheon, an event, that has to be closed. Which is minimum 50 times a year, probably closer to 75. If you do not have a kitchen, there will not be dinners at the Tiki Bar. And we have had comments, after work, it'd be nice, I just want to grab a burger. I don't want to make a reservation and then come into a carpeted area. So we do get comments from that.
You have an outside area that is as casual as can be.
Right, but it can't have dinner. It can't have dinner because our kitchen has 120 reservations here, and they're making fillets and salmon and duck, and they can't have 50 orders of hamburgers coming in the middle of that. You made a reservation for 7 o'clock. You don't want to have 50 burgers coming in at 7, like, we'll get your food in a minute, we're busy with Tiki. So dinners can never happen if there is not, and we're talking a little grill, fryer, that Sally made. We're not talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those are just my comments, and whatever happens, happens.
Can I make a motion, Steve?
Yeah, let me say something before, please, if I may.
Before you do that, Mr. Coinbas, I do hear a lot of sidebar conversations. Audience members, I ask that you please, if you have to have a sidebar conversation, please try to exit the room. We are recording this meeting, and the recorder does pick up the sidebar conversations. Thank you.
Rick, bear with me just a second.
Oh, of course.
Let's see if we can peck away at this in some logical order. I'm assuming consideration of the site out by the bicycle racks is off the table.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's off. Is there interest in pursuing any more dialogue about the site out here off of the bar?
Down the road.
Well, so say some more of what you mean by down the road. What do you mean?
Well, because it is going to be an expensive project, I think we would have to do the same thing with that project that we did with the Tiki Bar project, as far as open, community meetings, or another survey, etc.
Okay.
And when I presented that about a year ago, that was just an idea.
Okay. So where's he going? So is it clear or not clear that this site out here for now is off the table?
Right now?
Right now. To move us forward.
Didn't she say it would affect revenue and operations?
Yes.
I'm going to listen to the GM.
Well,
GM rather.
I think the committee wanted us to consider this in having the, Mr. Humphreys come to say, same price, much cheaper? No, it's much more. To know, we have to know that now, because we don't want to wait, spend more time on that location, and then this does become, wow, this is $100,000 less, same thing. I think what the committee wants us to do is to decide, should we have the design people come and say, is this feasible? Can we afford this? Is it the same, less, more? And then if it's exorbitant, okay, that's off the table. Less, maybe, okay, now let's pursue it. But I think the committee wants us to decide yay or nay via David Humphreys giving us the idea of how much it's gonna be. And is it a good location? He would know saying, I don't know, or wow, this is a great location. He has that knowledge to give us that answer. And I think that's what Mr. Kleinglass is asking. Can we ask Mr. Humphreys to give us information on this? So we know, because right now we're split again. We need to get one and go for it. But the committee has asked us to look at this seriously now.
Well, will David Humphreys give a ballpark figure on this? Because I'll tell you, in my heart of hearts, I can't imagine that a new construction project, be it at the bell tower or wherever, is going to be less expensive than a renovation of the existing structure that we have out there. I can't imagine that we're going to put up a, I don't know, a 1,500 square foot unit, and it's going to cost us less than redoing cabinetry and refrigeration. I think it's going to be many times more. But that's just my feeling based on what construction costs. You know, if it's $150 a square foot, $200 a square foot, I think it's going to become very pricey.
Well, I'm kind of on Rich Rocco's viewpoint. You know, the bell tower sounds nice, but I heard discussion that if anything, that's maybe a project down the road. I honestly believe that new construction is going to be a lot more expensive for us versus a renovation with or without a kitchen facility there.
Ernest?
I think we need to make a motion here as to what direction we're going to take. I would move that we consider renovations at the present site without a kitchen.
I'll second.
Okay. Let me, just want to be clear here, because the committee has asked for the following things. And I want to make sure that you understand what the committee is recommending. The committee, in their initial meeting, recommended a design that included the renovation of the Tiki Hut in its existing location with an add alternative for a modest kitchen. That was the recommendation that came out of that meeting. The subsequent meeting, they came back and said, would it be appropriate to at least get a feeling for what could be done out here? Was this feasible? What would be a rough estimate? And how does that meld in with the overall picture?
Okay, I will make my motion again, if you didn't hear.
I
I know what the committee said, but you know, we have to get something finite here. Otherwise, they'll be building another hospital.
Well,
while we wait. I move that we consider making renovations to the present site without a kitchen and explore more.
and we're still under discussion, Ernest. We've heard the motion.
Okay.
Well, hang on.
There was a second, so that
So he's got a
Discussion.
we've got a discussion. All right.
So my standpoint is, we have another meeting on what, April 26th?
Yep.
So I would ask Steve, does that allow enough time to get an estimate for the bell tower? Because I think what we're running up into, Richie, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but your committee is moving forward relative to reserve studies and things of that nature, and this is all part of our planning, so do you think that's feasible, Steve?
But Carl,
Let me finish.
okay, I'm trying to just, Add to what you said.
I,
I wasn't gonna argue with you.
no, I'm sorry.
I'd love to.
So we would have, if that's feasible, we would have a clear direction, at least at the next meeting, to vote with, maybe this is too expensive a project out here. Let's go back and look at kitchen versus non-kitchen renovation.
But you're not.
See, I don't think you have to
speaking
do
the
that,
motion.
Carl. Excuse me. You don't have to do that. Renovating the Tiki Bar. We've all agreed on that for 2 years. Let's renovate the Tiki Bar. Let's not add a kitchen. Okay, and renovate the Tiki Bar. If we decide to do the Bell Tower Bar or another board down the road decides to do it, they do it. The Tiki Bar still needs to be renovated unless you're gonna knock it down and get, 12 extra places. The Tiki Bar is a place for drinks and food delivered. And that doesn't change. This would be an enhancement of the dining and drinking experience for this building.
That I understand.
Right.
And if I may add to my point, we've already talked about the complexity and the time involved with running. It's not sending an order into the kitchen, it's getting an order back out in a reasonable time for people out there. And we're talking about a modest kitchen. We're not talking about full-blown dinner service here. And I think we need to seriously take a look at that.
Okay. I call the question.
Hang on, this is important enough. Let's have some more discussion. For me, at least, this concept out here may be a viable concept, but it changes a whole dynamic of things here. It's a whole new set of circumstances out there, and I'm not sure that it fits the motif of what the Tiki Hut is intended to be out there.
That's true.
So while I'm somewhat intrigued by this, I think it's a bigger concept, and I agree with you that my opinion is that if we take on something like this, we're talking a lot of dollars that I don't think we're in a position to do. So that's my hesitancy.
So I guess what I'm hearing from you is put aside the second of the three proposals. We've already nixed the third, and it's taking a look at what renovation happens out at the Tiki Bar, with or without a modest kitchen.
Yeah, I think that we're coming to terms with the location at least. I think it's going to be a mistake, and I would offer up here that if we don't at least consider what a modest kitchen could be out there and what it would cost in the grand scheme of the design that we've got going on here, we're making a mistake. And so I think those are our choices.
And I think it's a mistake the other way.
Okay.
Because you got to get grease traps, you got to get fire suppressants, you got to get all that. And
We know that.
We all, that's when we were up over $1 million. Now we scaled back to 750, and this would be renovating the existing kitchen would be significantly less than that.
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. And,
Can we read it, please?
and how about if we want to read that motion again? Linda, do you want to read it back?
The motion by Mr. Booker was for the renovation to be to the present site without a kitchen.
Okay, and Rick seconded that?
Yes.
No further discussion? Can we call a vote?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 3 in
3-2.
favor, 2 against.
Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to direct Humphrey and Fishman to design a renovation of the existing Tiki Hut to get us new cabinets, new bar equipment, and I'll include the shade portion of it.
I think that's
as we move
that's obviously very important.
Okay, and just so we're all clear, in the shade portion, we're talking about the Tiki Hut in that 18 or 20 feet forward, and then whatever other shade he may recommend around the pool deck.
Well, or could that be sales also?
I don't know.
That's up for the pros to tell us, I think.
Let's see what he says to us.
If you're standing there, we have all those plants to the left that border the tennis fence. Okay, that could accommodate probably 10 seating for at least 10 tables. So I think they should consider that as well as, and when they renovate.
Just so you know, what I think you're gonna get is you're gonna see an extension of that roof to come out the 18 or 20 feet with a pitched roof type of a design.
Yeah.
With seating under there, the renovation of the bar area to include tap beer, maybe a smoothie, things of that. And then some selected shade areas around the rest of the pool.
Yeah.
All right, that's where we're going.
Yep.
All right, now if I come back to you and tell you that the estimate is X amount of dollars, we have money to pay for this?
I don't think she has it in her purse.
I don't really,
We have how much set
I
aside?
think it was
There's an
about
amount that was set
300,000.
I think
aside.
it's 180.
Yeah, we had 140 a year or so ago, and then there was 40,000 in this year's budget. So as far as I know, there's 180
You're right, yeah.
that we know we had.
All right.
But now's the time to get the estimates because your proposed budget
Yeah.
has to be
Right.
approved
All right.
by June 15th.
I know what to do.
Okay.
Thank you all for the discussion.
Thank you, Steve, for all your work.
Thank you.
Tremendous job.
Thank you.
Thank the committee as well.
We're still gonna get this thing done.
Before the hospital starts.
Before the new
We're gonna get this done. All right.
Before we move on, does anyone need a break?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay.
When we talk about the extra money, I think the max is 8,500. If the board wants me to ask John Tolberg to see if he'll do a plan for us, we can do that, which may be less than 8,500. So I would say not to exceed 8,500.
Yes, we are, right now.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
take a
Sorry,
break.
guys, but I'll get shot if I don't get this.
Bless you, my son, on your move.
Mike has asked if he could give his presentation on the JNL geothermal before we take a break.
All right, sure.
All right, so we're gonna move on with item number 4E.
We're good. We're fine. We're fine.
Go ahead, Mike.
No more than 5 minutes. At the last meeting, which was March 8th, the board asked me to contact J&L just to confirm the prices and basically to ensure that he would do the evaluation of the geothermal coil tube for $500. I reached out to him on March 15th with an email to that effect, highlighting the part about you thought the cost of this analysis would be $500. We would ask you to confirm that cost via email. Since that time, no response. Andy asked me my recommendations to how we should proceed. My first recommendation was to do a contract with the $8,400 for the replacement unit, $500 for the, $500 for the tube evaluation. Second one was, and quite honestly, I forget, it was probably just.
Same as above, but increase the price by 500.
Okay.
And then the third was to prepare a contract for replacement of the unit without the removal and return of the.
Right. Yes. Andy came back at me, his recommendation, I think, and I'll let him confirm this, would be to do the contract with $500.
Number one.
I will tell you, I think that might be the problem because I think he came up with that number a little bit off his head, off the top of his head. And I think it's probably going to cost $100 to send the unit or send that coil back to the manufacturer. Now, obviously, the manufacturer is going to take it apart, so he's not going to return it. So he may be reluctant to do that, but I guess at this point, that would be my recommendation to do the contract for the $8,400 plus the $500.
Okay.
See what happens.
I think we had, the board had agreed to do that. I'm fine with that. I know
Right.
you had asked Andy. Andy said I haven't done any contracts, so.
Right, I have been waiting.
I don't think it had the $500.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that's the board's direction, which I agree, I think is the direction we have before, I will follow through, absolutely. Unless there's any.
I would say yes, unless there's anybody opposing that.
No, we had talked about this at the last minute, we
Yeah,
should be going.
let's do that.
Yeah, Mike and I were kind of waiting and dragging our feet to see if they would respond, which of course they haven't, so we find ourselves pretty much back where we were.
Mr. Krejci, I have a question. If you sent the coil back to the manufacturer, do you think they could be unbiased in? Because if they say, yeah, it was the coil, they've got to replace it. I mean, they ruined the whole system and.
Well, that's true, and that's a good question. I don't know if they can take the coil apart to evaluate it. I guess my hope would be that they would come back and say that it wasn't due to something in the water. A year and a half or so later, I'm not sure they can even say that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, we've had this discussion, but I think that we've all just come to the conclusion, it needs to be fixed, it's gonna cost $8,400. Maybe we'll get something out of this little fishing expedition,
Maybe, maybe not.
probably not.
Okay, the other thing we talked about doing was just doing a water test. I think I probably told you that we found a lab here over in Triple Diamond Park. They actually do the water testing for the city of Venice. I talked to them on Friday. I had hoped to have the report back by then. When I took the water sample in, he told me it would be at least 10 days, and Friday was the 10th work day. He said everything was done except the metals. The metals apparently take longer to do. I think it's a sedimentation type thing. He just ran through some of the results. He said the chlorine level was 4. That's pretty much where I try to keep my pool, as opposed to what the pool guy records as 1. So I'm not sure why the difference. The alkalinity was lower than what I would normally expect in my pool. The one thing, and I knew this was probably going to be the situation, the phosphates, he said, were extremely high. The pool store will tell you that if you have high phosphates, that eats up the chlorine, so you have to get the phosphates out. I have high phosphates in my pool. I have for 4 years. I've tried to get the phosphates down, just cannot do it. I quit. Chlorine, I don't have a problem with chlorine. So we'll see the full report probably this week. Denise and I'll get a copy. When we do, we'll pass it around to everybody else.
Mike, who's doing the water test for us?
It's a company called Sanders Labs.
Okay.
They're at, I think it's 104 Endeavor Court.
Mike, I want to say thank you again
Yes,
for all
thank you very much.
the work that you've done for us in researching this, and we'll get the contract done and we'll move forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay,
Take
so
a break?
we're gonna take a 10-minute break
Sure,
at 11 o'clock a.m.
okay.
Additional seats in the back.
Is item number 4D, which is the review and discussion regarding the tennis rules. This is behind tab number 5 for your review.
Could I just say one thing?
Sure.
It relates to what we were just dealing with. I don't know if the survey about the Tiki Bar ever went out to the community, and I'm thinking that if it hadn't, it should.
Okay, so it has not, and I've had some questions about it, and I was uncomfortable sending it out without the board first saying, okay, so Denise, we'll send it out.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that one of the questions that was asked are, where are you on, casual dining versus fine dining? And I think that's, can't remember what question that was.
The first one.
They visit, expanded.
Two or three. 2 or 3, Carl.
Yeah, I think it's 3. And casual dining was like 44%. So any discussion that we have ought to be, in consideration, of those public input.
Well, let me just make a suggestion. I think the whole issue of this casual dining, now that it's clear the board has said no to a kitchen out there, I think there can be some discussion about what are some options. How do we get to what we all want out there? And we'll have some conversation about that.
Okay.
With the right people. I mean, maybe the social and dining
Did you say no
committee.
kitchen out there?
They said no kitchen out there. That was the vote.
No.
That was the vote, Carl.
The vote was without the kitchen, and it was 2 to 3.
That's correct. Okay, so the survey's going to go out.
3
3 rejected the proposal of only a renovation.
No, 3 or 4 only.
No, what the vote said, Cole, was that three supervisors, myself, Rick McCafferty, and Ernest Booker said no kitchen. Do the renovation.
Renovation, no kitchen.
Okay. I got that wrong.
Yourself and
I
Steve
apologize.
wanted the kitchen.
Right.
But getting to the question is, the survey is going to get sent out to the community.
Survey will get sent
Okay.
out. And we'll revisit that food issue somehow, because I think that's an important discussion.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So, sorry I jumped in front of you, Alan.
No problem. Okay, so I want to, I'm the chairman of the Racket Sports Advisory Committee, Alan Lance. I want to start with the usage rules, the 2 usage rules on tab 5, which are items 3 and 4. I'll tell you what wants a printed copy. I have printed copies if anybody needs them. We need these rules, and we need these rules now. We don't need these rules 4 months from now. And I'm going to tell you why. We have the same River Club manager, the same tennis director. And so it's not like there's a new tennis director here that has to observe what's going on for 3 or 4 months and make decisions and recommendations. Also, these rules have been pending for approximately 6 to 8 months. The Recreational Advisory Committee passed these same rules unanimously in 2020. We passed these rules in 2021. And the usage rules are needed. I'm going to give you an anecdotal reason. I'm going to give you a statistical reason why the residents want these rules. It's not just the committee. It's the residents that want these rules. And the usage rules will serve the residents. They'll serve the residents by allowing more occupancy or more capacity on the tennis courts during prime time. Now, let's take a golf analogy for a minute. If you have a shotgun in golf and you have 72 golfers on the golf course with 36 carts every Sunday morning, a prime time for golfers. And let's say that every Sunday, one group, they sign up for 4, but they show up for 2. And what that twosome does is now they're pushing everybody. They want to play up on all the par 3s. So you got 4 par 3s in the nation, I think. And it gets annoying after a while. Now, those two guys that don't show, and that one foursome in the shotgun, that results in a 2.7% decrease in capacity or occupancy of the golf course. If you carry that over to the tennis courts, when one person uses a ball machine or one person takes a lesson and you only have 6 courts, not 18 courts, you're reducing your capacity by 12.5% each time that happens. Now, here's the anecdotal reason that I was talking about. In the past 3 or 4 weeks, we've had one guy sign up for the ball machine at 8 o'clock or 9:30 for singles, and you're allowed to play singles, even though 90% of the play at prime time is doubles. So there's 4 people on most of the courts. You can take a look at the tennis reservation website, and you'll see across the board, it's almost all doubles. But people can occasionally do play singles. So you have this one guy sign up for doubles, and then what he does is, his partner doesn't show up, he walks into the garage, tennis garage, pulls out the tennis ball machine on his own, with no help from anybody, just walks in there and takes it, puts it on the court, plugs it in, and now we have one guy using a ball machine during prime time. Yesterday, Sunday, we had a tennis pro here, one of our tennis pros, not Charlie. One of our other tennis pros was giving a lesson at 8 o'clock. One person, one resident with a child on one court, again, reducing capacity on that court on Sunday morning by 12.5%. Now, that's the anecdotal reason. Let me give you the statistical reason. We took a survey. We took 2 surveys, one in 2017 and one in 2020. The 2020 survey that we just took wanted this rule by margin 18%, and the balance 20% or so had no opinion. That's a 3-to-1 ratio. They wanted no lessons and no ball machine during prime time. Now, our committee also voted that prime time is 8 to 9:30, 9:30 to 11, 11 to 12:30. So if you're a pro here and you want to give a lesson, I guess we have 3 pros now, Jake, Charlie, and Cliff. You give you a lesson in the afternoon. Now, there's an exception to the rule, and that is at 11 o'clock, if you have 4 people, we put this exception in because 11 o'clock is on the margin, but still, in season, the 11 o'clock time is, for the most part, fully occupied. We put an exception in. If you have 4 people using the ball machine, that's okay. If you have 4 people in a lesson or a clinic at 11, that's okay. So we didn't carve out that exception. In the 2017 survey, we asked the same question, and the ratio in that survey was 6-to-1 in favor of the rule. So the residents want the rule. It's important because we're having people occupy the court with 1 person when 4 people could easily occupy the court. And now there's a little bit more of a trend at the Venetian that more and more people are playing social tennis. For whatever reason, maybe we're an aging community, I'm not sure what it is. People want less competition, so they're playing more of a social game. The interleague is what we consider competitive, a little bit more competitive tennis. Now, as far as that's really rule number 3 on the, item number 3 on the list. Item number 4 basically places daily limits on tennis play. So if you sign up in prime time, you get an hour and a half slot. There are people that play 3 hours in the morning and occupy a court for 3 hours. We don't want that to happen. That's not fair to the other residents who want a shot during prime time. And for whatever reason, however the people that are breaching this rule get around the rule, Charlie sees it and Charlie won't speak to the people. And we need a rule in place that's going to prevent more than one signing. Now, we didn't have this particular question on the survey in 17 and 20, but believe it or not, the majority of residents want weekly limits. Forget about daily limits, that's easy. They even want weekly limits. In the 2020 survey, question 12, it was 48.5% to 23%, roughly a 2-to-1 ratio. And interestingly, when we did the correlation analysis, 50% of that 50% of the interclub people who answered the question wanted weekly limits, like a Chelsea system, I guess, in golf. In 2017, it was a 3-to-1 ratio, wanted the weekly limit. So if people want weekly limits, they certainly want daily limits. So we think that's a good rule to, again, open up the courts to other people, so the same people aren't playing tennis during prime time. The bottom line here is more usage for more residents. That's what these two rules will accomplish. And again, both rules were passed by both committees, and there were different people. I was the only person on both committees, but they were both passed by the Recreational Advisory Committee and by the Racket Sports Advisory Committee. Okay, the next rule is, I just want to hand out to you the River Club rules on guests. The next rule deals with guests, and that would be item number 8 on tab 5. And if you don't mind, I'd just like to hand these out. You want these? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is what appears on the tennis website. It says,
You have one? Denise, you have?
I do not.
Alan, Denise?
yeah, I don't have another one. I need to refer to this.
We can share this.
Sorry, sure. That's all right, sweetie.
So if you look at page 2, your River Club rule on page 5, on item number 5, on the guest rule, clearly says that you cannot be a guest more than 2 times per month in the on-season and 4 times in the off-season. Now, for some reason, Charlie is of the opinion that he has the authority and discretion to change that rule on his own, to change a River Club rule. And it's evident from what he's placed on page 1, which is the tennis website. And he's allowing a guest 4 times a month the entire year. That's not what your River Club rule says. So, and Charlie's relying upon the July 9th, 2018 meeting. And I read those minutes. There's 15 pages. There's nowhere in the minutes that you either gave him authority to do that, number 1, or you changed the limit from 2 times a month to 4 times a month. So, unless I'm wrong about what happened at that meeting, and I read all the resolutions, they're all nice and neatly boxed in a rectangular box. There's nothing increasing the limit. Now, I'm not going to address here today because we're now a Racket Sports Committee, whether someone can come into the pool area or the gym 365 days a year. That's for another committee to address it. Maybe you want to address that, because the way the rules are being applied now is that these guest rules only apply, rule number 5 of the River Club rules only applies to tennis.
Right.
According to our River Club manager, there's no limit on using the gym and using the pool. And that's something that you may want to address, you may not want to address it. So, number 8, we'd like this to be included in the tennis rules. 2 times per month and in the on-season. And we wanted the on-season to begin October 1st because that's when it really begins, not November 1st. So we changed the date from October 1st, April 30th, and May 1st to September 30th. We added in there, it may or may not be necessary that the guest limit shall not be increased when the same guest is hosted by a different resident. We wanted that to be clear because there was some ambiguity about how the rule would be applied. But we need your endorsement of this rule so that the tennis director understands that in season, the guest limit is 2 times a month and not 4 times a month. Okay, so that's 3 of the 4 rules that we're seeking today for your approval. The other rule, which is rule number 1 on tab 5, and I heard Jerry Quinn's comments, and again, this rule has been discussed and debated on at least 3 or 4 different meetings that the advisory committee has. And Jerry's comment is interesting, and I invite her to come to our meeting today and make a proposal with regards to a separate rule that may apply just to interleague play, where we're inviting other clubs to play here and we go to other clubs to play. But this rule doesn't really speak to interclub. It speaks to social tennis. It speaks to a program in which Charlie supervises and blocks court time, so no one else can use those courts. The rule basically is saying, and I don't think there's much disagreement, Barb Jasper initially wanted one of the sentences taken out, then she said, okay, you can leave it in. The rule makes sure that any program that is run by the tennis director is inclusive of all of our residents at the Venetian. However, the tennis director or the initiator of the program can segregate by gender or by skill level. So it gives some discretion as to the program. But if you have in tennis, we have ratings of 2.5, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0. Those are some of the common ratings at the Venetian. So if you have a program for 3.0 women, all 3.0 women should be invited into that program if Charlie is blocking court time. And that's really the rule that we want here. We want to make sure that everyone gets a shot. New residents, beginners, everybody gets a shot to play in a program that's organized by the tennis staff. Number 2 is, it's not a rule, number 2, the advertising, but we'd like all the tennis programs advertised. So if a resident comes up with a new program, it should be advertised. If Charlie comes up with a new program, it should be advertised so all of the residents are aware of it. Number 5 on the $10 fee. It's not a new rule. We're just asking that the rule be added to the River Club rules and regulations. So anybody who looks up the tennis rules under the River Club rules and regulations sees the $10 rule. Now, currently, the $10 rule is in season. I can tell you that at your next meeting, I'm going to ask to speak to you, because our committee unanimously, 7-0, with Denise's stamp of approval, correct? We're recommending that the $10 fee be year-round. And just to give you a little sneak preview of what you can hear from me next time, the reason we're doing that is because we have a survey, 16 other communities, Boca Royale, the Cedars, Courtside, Jacaranda, Englewood, every community except our community has a guest fee 12 months a year. We're the only community with a 0 on this spreadsheet. And I'll have these spreadsheets available to you so you can see what the research disclosed. Then we have, okay, item number 6. Tennis rule number 1 on the website requires that when a tennis player makes a reservation, all 4 names be entered. Now, we had a lot of discussion about this rule, and I think the rule did pass. And the committee is recommending that we enforce this rule. Now, it's not a new rule, but it's basically not being enforced. We have lots of people that are signing up as a twosome, and then later on, within the 3-day window, they're adding in the names or having Charlie add in the names. We don't want Charlie adding in the names. That's not his job. It's the player's responsibility under Rule 1, until Rule 1 is changed, and that's a published rule. Until that's changed, it says must. When the player makes a reservation, he or she must enter all 4 names. So one of the purposes of the rule is to see if any of the players are guests, and to make sure that they're complying with the 2 times a month guest rule, and that they're paying their guest fee. So it requires you to add your guest name at the time you make a reservation. It requires that all 4 names be entered. And we want our tennis director to speak to people that are violating this rule, and that's not occurring. Last thing I wanted to address is the charter. We've had this charter pending now for quite some time. Hasn't been approved yet by you. Denise and I worked on it together. We're in 100% agreement as to the charter that we have in effect. I can give you copies if you like right now. I think we provided copies before. Is that correct, Denise, that we're in agreement?
Yes.
We'd like you to approve the charter, so we have a charter. At some point in time, we can operate without a charter. We've been doing that, but we'd like to have a charter, so we have a guide as to what we do. So I'm hoping you guys will make a motion to pass the 4 rules that we recommended, and that's item number 3, item number 4, item number 8, and item number 1. So it's 1, 3, 4, and 8. Thank you.
Just my comment, Alan. Our next meeting is going to be 4 rules. My preference would be that we deal with all the rules at once. As far as the charter is concerned, that's a different issue. We can certainly deal with the charter if it's it's on the agenda, I believe, right?
No.
Oh, the finance committee's charter is on the agenda. It may not be, but we certainly can deal with the charter. But I'm going to make an overall comment. We can make every one of these rules, and I'll tell you personally, I don't disagree with anything that you said. We can double the number of rules, but if we're not enforcing the rules, which I really think is what your issue is, the rules are there, but they're not being enforced.
No, they're not all there.
Okay, the ones that are there, the tennis fee rule, the number of times a person can play, that's a rule. It's not being enforced from what I'm hearing.
We need you to tell management that the rule is 2 times a month in season, not 4 times.
I believe we've had that discussion. We have had that discussion a couple of meetings ago. So I'll go back to what I said. We can make all the rules in the world, but if they're not being enforced, that's the issue. That's the crux of the whole thing in my mind, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, we really don't have rules 3 or 4 on the books. They're not on the books.
Okay.
We don't have rule 1 on the books. Item 8, the 2 times a month rule, it's there. I showed it to you. You all have a copy.
I'm aware.
But what are you now saying that you agree that it's 2 times a month in season? Are you saying that? And are you directing your River Club manager to apply and implement that rule?
We have previously dealt with that issue, and that issue was discussed by this board some time ago. And agreed.
Our last meeting, last Monday, Charlie said, no, it's 4 times a month. And he refused to agree.
Am I incorrect on that?
I do recall that it has been discussed previously.
Yes.
As to the outcome, can't confirm that.
Correct. If I may,
But, well, hold on 1 second, if I could, Denise, I'm sorry to
go
interrupt.
ahead, no.
But I want to continue with what the chair is saying, in that we do have a public hearing scheduled for next month. And I think that is the appropriate time to discuss all of these rules. And if we want to change it to 3 times a month, whatever, 6 times, we can make and confirm what we want the rule to be, because we have teed it up in that manner. So I think that is the appropriate time to discuss all of this. I think the briefing today was excellent and needed and necessary for the board members to be thinking about these things. But I think the action should be on the 26th And we are free at that time to do anything. We can make it 2, we can make it 4, we can make it 8, okay? And so that's when I think that the action needs to take place. And what I have told Mr. Lance, as well as Supervisor Booker, who's of course the liaison for the committee, as well as Denise, is that I think it would be helpful if we had a red line in the agenda package for the 26th, because what they are all living and breathing it way more than I am. And what I will prepare is the necessary legal document, the resolution that says, we, the board, have had our public hearing, we, the board, are adopting X, and I need that thing to staple to it.
Yes.
And then that can be presented to this board, and I think Alan's probably already begun work on it. That could be presented to this board, and you could take it as is, make whatever changes you want. We'll hear from the public, and at the end of that process, we will have a document that we will staple to it, and that will be what the outcome is.
Okay. Well, I support all of that. I think, we had set aside this time at the April 26th meeting to do that. So the overview we got today, I think, is very, very helpful, but I'm not in a position to say, let's vote on this today. Let's vote on this on the 26th as we deal with all the rules at a public meeting.
And as you said, with regards to the charter, it's not, we could certainly do that today.
Sure.
It's not in the agenda package or on the agenda. We could add it if you want to.
I would like to add it just so we can get past one item relative to the Racket Sports Advisory Committee.
Okay.
That's a peg in the sand. I'd like to make a couple other comments. Chairman Bracco brings up a very good point about enforcement. When we were members of the Oaks Club side in Osprey, you had to go into the tennis office to sign up or sign up in advance and then ask for the tennis machine. I mean, it's not something that you went into a shed and pulled out on your own for play. Now, I'll just make my general comments if you can bear with me. I support the RSAC rules. Evidently, there's a small group of residents ignoring fair play and times on the tennis courts. Egregious activities such as blocking out the doubles, yet a single player using a ball machine at the wrong time for court play. Why does this and other activities such as booking, TBD to be filled in later occur? Where is our tennis office, and this is a general comment, and I hope no one takes this personally, in regulating fair play and court time on the courts? Does no one check who's on the court versus the schedule? Which most players agree is being gigged by a few people. Not everybody, but I take Alan's comments to heart that if you have a foursome, it becomes a threesome or a twosome, you're reducing the ability for fair access, on the courts. And I guess my last comments, I've been hearing this information for 3 years. Okay, first as a facilities advisory committee because I was in contact with some of the tennis players and looking at some of the issues on court conditions, fencing and stuff like that. But these comments that Alan and his committee are addressing have been there for a considerable amount of time. And I think during the April 26th meeting, when we redline through this, I think we'll be able to get some general agreement, but then we also need to talk about, aside from that, enforcement.
Again, I see enforcement as we can make all the rules in the world. If we're not going to enforce them, all we're doing is spinning our wheels. And I have little patience with that.
And I agree 100% with what you just said, but we have to have the rules first before we can enforce them.
Oh, without a doubt.
And we don't have these rules in place.
I think we agree with you.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So, I have copies of the rules and I have copies of the charter. Whatever you
Well, as I say, I think we can do the charter today.
Let's look at the charter.
We can deal with that. But I'm going to suggest that we save the rules for the rules meeting, which is on the 26th, and deal with it in its entirety.
Mr. Brecker, while he's passing that out, there's just a couple things.
Thank you.
I've been hearing for months and months, we're not collecting guest fees, we're not collecting guest fees. That is absolutely not true. There was an issue last summer with a guest who was coming 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a month. And of course, you're not allowed to come that many times, but she was a house guest half of those times. One of the members said, can we prove that? Well, I can't very well knock on the door and ask to see her suitcase. The member said, I had had surgery, she's staying with me, and she played during that time, so you don't collect guest fees. And we asked her over and over and over, and I can't very well call them liar. I have to take her at her word. We have been collecting guest fees. I don't know if we have missed any. If we have, maybe once. So that's just something that they keep throwing out. We're not collecting guest fees. There's no truth in that.
I didn't say that.
The other one is that mentioning a foursome to a twosome. These are members too. If somebody cancels, and we have had people cancel, there's nothing we can do about that. But we do have a handful of people, I don't even know if it's a handful, 2 or 3, that do not put the 4 names down. And we talk to them and we email them, and they'll do it for a week or 2, and then it's back to that. And Charlie and I have been discussing, what do we do with that? And pretty much it's going to come down to suspending them from playing tennis, because they will not listen to us, that we've reprimanded verbally and via emails, and that's not happening. And it is just a few people. Regarding the ball machine, it's one gentleman, and he finagles, and we have talked to him and he'll, oh yeah, never again. And a week later he's doing it. Did it again the other day. Manipulated around the rule. He canceled his twosome, waited 20 minutes, and then booked a ball machine. Again, finagling. I've tried to get a hold of him on the phone, have not been able to, but Charlie was able to talk to him and said, it stops now. And that gentleman will be banned from using the ball machine for a month if he, again, does. And that's one gentleman. But it's not like we're just like, oh, whatever. We are working on enforcing these. We just have those handful of people that just finagle around and do everything they can to cheat on this. And it's not a good thing, but it's not like we don't try on that. And we're trying to come up with the quote unquote discipline that we're going to do to these people who will not stop.
Denise, I support what you're talking about. I know as until recently an avid user of the fitness facilities, we've had issues with individual residents in there, behavior, abusive language to other residents. And those have been brought to the board, I believe, in the past for discipline, 30 days the first time, 60, 90, and that's the only way I think we're going to get this message out to, this, whether it's a small group or a large group, doesn't matter, but this, group of people that are causing the problem. And I think that's an avenue for approach.
Yeah, it's unfortunately going to be the only avenue because they're not obeying that no matter how much they ask.
Can we put a chain around the ball machine?
What about?
Don't we know who these violators are?
Yes.
I know the members of my committee don't wish to be, as I would say in the street, diming them out.
Right.
Okay, but, and it's our job, once it's recognized, management more so, to bring it before this body for corrective action. And again, I think we know who these people are. We should do a preemptive strike, if you would, send an email or letter out to them indicating rules are being changed. You are given notice. This will not be tolerated.
Here's a question for the board, because this isn't for example, if this gentleman does again, finagles away and cheats on the ball machine, or the one who refuses to put the 4 names down. Because it is just tennis that they would be suspended from, does that have to come before the board? Or can I say, we're not gonna allow you to make a reservation for 2 weeks or a month or whatever?
My opinion is, as general manager or as the tennis pro, you have the authority to do that. If the resident contests it, they could contest it with the
Then we
board.
come before the
But
board.
I would say 30
But
days.
that's
not 2
your,
weeks.
I think that's within your province, and
Right.
if it goes further, just as we've done with other things, you know, as we've suspended people from the River Club, if they want to contest it, they come here, we deal with it.
I would
Fine.
support that.
Okay, see,
Does that work,
I
Andy?
would support that, yes.
I like that because, you know, there's been such a hostile environment created between the tennis players, my committee, and management as a result of the actions of a few.
Yeah.
Okay, and if we can arrange or giving her carte blanche to take this type of action, it would go a long way, goodwill.
As the chair has said in the past, I mean, we've had people that are violent at the Tiki Bar.
Right.
Rightfully so,
Oh,
suspended them and gave them the opportunity to come to the sport if they wanted to contest it.
All right, so we're, I'll say it one more time. As far as the rules are concerned, I want to do that on the, at the upcoming meeting where we're going to do all the rules.
26th.
But as far as the charter is concerned, I have read the charter before because it did come, I don't know if my fellow supervisors have.
I've read it before.
I only have one question with that, and then being that it's not on the agenda, we have to, I guess, open it up. My question is under the last item on removal of members. I think you got to say, you can't just remove them because you don't like their looks. You got to, there has to be some kind of reason why they're going to be removed, rather than committee members shall be removed and replaced by a majority vote. What in other charters we have for lack of attendance or something like that? I think.
And I also believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the committee makes a recommendation to this board, and the board does.
Yes.
It's gotta say recommended.
Okay.
Recommended
We
to
recommend.
the board.
It's gotta say.
Okay.
So I would suggest that as a change.
Change it and we can bring it up again.
All right.
Yeah, I'll definitely change it and I'll submit it to you.
Well,
One other
Well,
comment.
we could do an
Yeah,
approval
with the
pending,
change.
and get it done today, is what I'm saying. We can do that, right?
You sure could.
Okay.
One other comment. Under committee officers, the first paragraph, is that a sunshine law violation where he's asking committee members to submit agenda items to him? Andy,
I don't have a copy.
look at the first paragraph.
That came up in conversation this morning.
It wouldn't be discussion, it would just be submitted.
Yeah,
Well,
it came up in conversation
let's
this
see what
morning,
he
and I
says.
think
I'm not
that,
sure. Tell me where you're pointing to.
Under
Go
commi-
right to it.
It's the last paragraph.
No, committee officers, second sentence. And then the third sentence.
the chairperson will determine the agenda.
Members will submit.
I think members can submit information to the chair of the committee. He cannot respond.
Okay, so that's okay the way it's written?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I see it now.
so I would move to adopt the charter for the Racket Sports Committee.
Well, because it's not an agenda, I'm sorry, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll go
Because
ahead.
it's-
Let's
Yeah,
get
we
the
have to-
motion,
Okay,
second,
okay.
and then we'll open it up.
Okay, fine.
So I move to accept it with the change under removal of members, with the language to bring the
Recommend.
recommendation to the board.
Second.
Okay. Now,
In as much as this is not an agenda item, on this item only, if we have any public comment, we can take it. I see no public comment, so we'll close public comment. We have a motion. It's been seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Do you want me to make a presentation on the 26th because Supervisor McCaffrey was not here?
Yes.
Do you want
I
to
think-
the
yes.
same or similar presentation or some?
I think it would be valuable because there's going to be,
we can have members of the public.
there's going to be residents here as well, Alan, that aren't here today. So Yes.
So I'll just paraphrase basically what I said.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just say one other thing, the item number 3, the ball machine, it's not the only prohibition in the rule, it's also professionals giving tennis lessons at prime time. And that rule hasn't been enforced by management.
Okay.
I just referred to yesterday as a prime example, but there are other examples of tennis lessons being given during prime time to one person. So that rule encompasses both the ball machine and the professionals giving their lessons. Which, by the way, we don't get any money from those lessons. The Venetian makes nothing off of any of the pros. They all keep the money that they make. So we just ask them to do their lessons in the afternoon. If we had 12 courts, it wouldn't be a problem. We only have 6 courts.
I hear you. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Supervisors, Andy does have to leave in a couple of minutes, so we're going to jump to his staff report.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for understanding. I do appreciate that. Just one item really, and that is there was an email sent a number of weeks ago about the lights over the pool. And I mentioned that we would research it. Lori Dorman from my office did some research with a lot of help from aspiring attorney Keith Livermore over here. And as a team effort, they came up with a response, which I believe is that basically they are okay. I just got the email from Lori over the weekend. I will forward it to all board members so that you can review it.
Just along those lines, I'm also going to ask the architect to look at that lighting out there.
Excellent. Okay. So that is the only item I had. Do you want to jump to the budget amendment while I'm still here too?
That would be
Yes,
good.
we can.
Okay.
So we do have, as directed by the board, we did prepare a budget amendment, which is item number 4K. We have consideration of resolution 2021-02, amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. This is behind tab number 9 for your review.
And we do realize the date is wrong, but Belinda will correct that.
I will correct that on the resolution.
And supervisors, you recall, this is simply a,
Just an amendment increasing the architect, the landscape architect fees. That's the only item that was amended and it's highlighted.
I moved. Reason being that it came out of one year and it should have come out of another. So it's
Correct.
just a,
It's really necessary. It's necessary, period, but it's also necessary for the auditors.
Okay, I move adoption.
Is there a motion by Ernest? Second by Carl. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, have we already done a motion to spend up to $8,500 for the landscape architect, or do we need to do that?
I believe we did at the last meeting. That's why we added it as a budget amendment.
right. And one of Rick's comments before he left was to consider using John Torborg and to see if that price can come down. But we had approved that amount, I believe.
Yes. I mean, I can ask John for Representative to provide a proposal, and then you can consider it at the next meeting.
Yep.
But with the caveat that John is not a landscape architect.
Right, yes, right.
And I'll follow up with Rick as well.
Okay.
Great job, Andy.
All right, are there any other questions for me?
Andy, I have one.
Sure.
If you remember, several months back, there was a suspension of a member, a long-term suspension that ends on the 26th. Do we need to send a letter saying that, or just he should know that?
We do not, we certainly could, if the board would like, but we do not need to, no.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Is there any further information relative to our appeal to the city of Venice on the dog park pickleball courts?
I was going to bring that up under supervisor comments.
I am not handling that.
Right.
Oh, that's right, I apologize. So we'll wait till then.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I appreciate it.
Want to go back up to F, gutters and leaders and gutters?
Okay, so we're going to go into the consideration of the proposal for gutters at the guardhouse. This is behind tab number 6 for your review.
It's $1,350 or something?
Yes, this doesn't require board approval. It falls within the authority of the chairman.
Price seemed reasonable to me, Mr. Chairman, relative to having
It
gutters
did.
done on another.
I know there was a question raised some time ago about the color, because they come in.
They're going to do a cream colored. What happened with these, they were white and then somebody painted them cream and now all that paint's peeling.
Right.
And making a mess. So these will be to match the building, they'll blend.
Okay,
together.
I move.
We don't need it. We don't need
Yeah,
a motion.
it's,
Just
I
here.
can approve that. Okay.
Right,
Well,
so,
I have a question, but he does that, doesn't it need, just, we approve his action, we agree with his action,
you can
protect him,
agree.
to protect him.
You can in consensus. I mean,
I mean,
but you don't
yeah.
have to have a motion for the cost because it falls within his authority.
Okay, no, well.
No, I hear what you're saying. If you want to do
To
that,
protect you, yeah.
if you want to do that, we could simply say, anybody disagree with
That's true.
the $1,350 proposal for the gutters and leaders?
I thought it was reasonable, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And we're gonna reuse the gutters that are there. We're gonna put them over on my guy's gonna put them over on the pump house.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So they won't be, they'll be used. And you can't see the pump house, but it'll save that area.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, well, I'll say.
Excellent.
You must watch HGTV a lot. Let's repurpose that. Good idea.
We deem the chairman's actions reasonable.
Thank you.
That's the term.
Okay, so moving forward, the next item on the agenda is item number 4G, which is the consideration of the Envision Communications proposal for the gate operator replacement, including the lighted arms. This is behind tab number 7 for your review.
First thing on that stands out is that he's added $2,346 in tax on his bill. So of course, that wouldn't apply. Do you know how much we have in reserve on this?
Yes, I do. Actually, you don't have enough funds for all of the replacement. I think the only ones that are up for replacement based on the study are numbers 1 and 2, and I believe what was allocated was $8,000.
Chairman, I have a question.
Where would that be under the reserves?
Main entrance, barrier arms, and operators, page 25. So I'm showing $8,612. Given that we're undergoing this process with the reserve study committee, I know Keith is not going to want to hear this, but I think we should postpone this and allow the committee to review this and review the estimate itself and the equipment to provide the board with a recommendation.
I agree, because we're $27,000 short on this.
Yeah, again, I have a question. Procurement, what's the policy as it relates to amounts of this nature? I mean, have we gone through, have we solicited?
In terms of bidding, you mean?
Solicitation of, for this type of equipment? Like, did we, possibly go out for bid or anything?
It's not a formal bid requirement because it doesn't exceed the threshold, but we can go out for bids with other vendors.
Yeah, well, have we done that?
Not as of right now.
Not yet.
This is the actual installer and the service provider. But we definitely can go out for bids with other vendors.
Okay.
Okay, I agree then that we should delay this until there's some further review on it.
Or can we delay and go out, solicit other?
We can.
Two others.
Yeah, I think
Usually
the
we get
total is high enough that we should have more than one bid.
Yeah.
And I think, Rich, your committee is going to be taking a look at the site, correct?
Yes.
Man. And the reason I brought this all up is that we are spending a great deal of money on these.
Repairs?
Repairs on these gates. They're in excess, I think there's only 2 that are newer, the rest of them are almost 18 years old. And, you know, with this new stuff, it's such a smoother action, and we have so much traffic out there, but we are bleeding money every month. In fact, we're getting ready to send up another invoice that I got today from Division. They were here over the weekend repairing some machines that are tore down at $600.
Right.
And so between that and the back gate and, you know, the reserve study probably really needs to be pumped up and this really a hard look at it because we're spending a lot of money there.
Well, maybe it needs to become a budget item for.
That's all I had. I mean, we spent the last 5 years just in gate repair, and this figure doesn't come in for the last couple of weeks, over $41,000. $41,000.
Some of that was recovered from those that drove through it, though.
Oh, that yes, but you know, that's just in repairs. It's not, you know, and this quote that you have also has new cameras and that need to be updated, and, you know, for that area. So it's sooner than later type stuff.
Okay.
All right, so the next
So
item.
what are we doing, table it?
I suggest you table it. I mean, I understand the cost of the repairs.
Right.
But given that you don't have the allocation on your reserve study for all of them to be replaced, it's definitely something for the reserve committee to review.
Move to table.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is the review and consideration of the Reserve Advisory Committee Charter, which is behind tab number 8 for your review. Rich, do you want to give an overview on the charter?
The committee put this together and it was going to come for the previous meeting, but we had to cancel that one. If you take a look at we made special attention to the general duties of the committee, and with the help of everybody on the committee, especially Jerry Jasper, we made these duties general enough and then specific duties to follow. I think we've covered everything. We went over it again and again, but I'm open to comment if anybody feels something else should be changed.
My only comment, Rich and I brought this up the last time we went through this, and it comes under member requirements. I just think we need to expand the list relative to experience, because we have finance, accounting, banking, and engineering. I would add franchise experience or manufacturing. Or
well, we have small
quality
business
purchasing.
experience. I'm sorry, Cole, right after that, it says small business experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so small business experience is good. But I would add either manufacturing or quality assurance, because these are critical functions to understand what mean time to repair, mean time to failure.
We can add that. I have no problem adding that.
And maybe purchasing experience. I don't know if you, so if I think we're in agreement to have manufacturing and quality assurance. Is that
Sure.
what you said, Rich?
I can do that.
What about purchasing?
I'm just writing them down.
Okay.
So manufacturing and purchasing experience.
Right.
We can add that.
Yeah, quality assurance comes under manufacturing, so.
We can add that to it. So what I'm asking for, based on these simple changes, approval of the charter as it's presented.
I move to approve.
I did have one thing, Rich.
Yes.
The committee member requirements must be a homeowner of record or spouse of a homeowner. I think that should be revisited.
Okay, and what would you
You do not
suggest?
have to be a homeowner to serve on a committee. and you do not have to be a homeowner to serve on the board as well.
Wow.
I'm sure if Andy would have been
Wow.
here, he would have brought it up, but
Wow.
Who are these interlopers? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, legally, you're saying?
you don't have to. It's not
No,
a
no, I'm
requirement.
saying
To
legal.
serve on a committee or to serve on the board, you do not have to be a homeowner. You can be a tenant.
That's right, yeah.
It's not a requirement. It's something to discuss with the committee, but you can also discuss it with Andy probably at the next meeting, and he can clarify for you. But
Okay.
I think in the past, when we tried to make, I don't remember which charter it was, there was similar language for it to be homeowners to serve. I think his input was the same, but we
Yes.
can bring it up at the next meeting.
That was at the initial first draft or whatever, I think may have been from this finance committee.
I don't think it
That's
was.
good.
I think it was another committee.
Okay.
Because we had the discussion a while ago.
Fine. I'll bring that up to the committee. That we have a meeting this coming Monday, week from today. And it should be good to go for the next meeting then with those changes made.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're not voting on it at this time, or can we move with, approve with the changes?
Well, Andy has a cell phone, why don't we call him? and
Well, he's
say-
in transit right now. I really don't want to bother him while he's
He
moving.
has the.
It's not that big a deal to wait
Okay,
another 2 weeks to do it. We'll make
Okay.
the appropriate changes and resubmit it for the next meeting.
okay, fine. I'm fine with that.
So Carl, I had added the discussion regarding the courtesy staff training and behavior, but afterwards you and I communicated. I'm not sure if you want to discuss this or if we can move forward.
Yeah, just so the board is aware, and this was personal. I think it was handled by Chris Fenton at the security office, or the courtesy staff office, well with the individual guard officer, but he literally, when he saw 222 Portofino, the next day, after I put this comment in, I'll explain the background in a minute, came right over to her house because he saw me pulling in with my wife. He said, when I saw 222, I knew it was Carl Chorpen. He didn't mean me, he meant my son. Who many of you know is autistic, walks throughout this community, and he said, I had to get over here right away and just apologize. The issue was let me expand on that. When we first moved in 5 years ago, people would report him on his walks. There's a strange person walking around with sunglasses on and headphones. And Chris, to his credit, said, that's not a stranger, that's Carl. Just stop and talk to him. So I believe Chris Fenton has the interest of the residents at heart. He apologized to me for the incident, but I had my family visiting from Michigan. My son-in-law, Jubei Hughes, is born as an American citizen, but had American father, Japanese mother. And the silly question was, or the silly comment was, well, you must get kidded a lot about your first name. And Chris said, there's no reason to even ask that question. And the guard in question recognized his error, and Chris handled it. I only brought it up initially because it was personal. And we've had a couple issues about, how we are represented at the front gate, not only with residents, but guests, potential residents who come in, and we would just want to make sure people are welcomed at that front gate, when they first come in. Because that really, besides our landscaping, is a window into our community. And I think Chris handled it well. I had no other issue on it, but that was the background.
Okay. Glad it's settled.
Yep.
Okay, moving forward, we do have items number 5A and 5B. Item number 5A is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on February 22nd, 2021. These are behind tab number 10 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
I have none.
I sent
If
mine
they're
in.
not, we are looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to.
Second.
Carl?
Move second, I'm not sure.
Okay, so there's a motion by Carl, second by,
I'll second it.
I heard Ernest first.
Okay, Ernest got it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 5B, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on March 8th, 2021. These are behind tab number 11 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the
I
minutes as
have no
presented?
comments.
None? If they're not, we're looking for a motion to approve.
Move.
Motion by Carl, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Rich. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
We do have some consent items for the board behind, tab number 12. We have the Social and Dining Committee meeting minutes of January 13th and February 10th of 2021. Facilities Advisory Committee meeting minutes of February 1st, 2021. Rapid Sports Advisory Committee meeting minutes of February 8th and 22nd, 2021. And the Fitness and Pool Advisory Committee meeting minutes of February 17, 2021. These are being presented to the board for acceptance.
I'll move that we accept them.
All of them,
Rich?
correct?
All of them.
Second.
Second by Carl. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
We're gonna move on to staff reports. Denise, do you have anything to report?
I do. I have some comments. We've been having members sneak in and use the showers. So we'll be sending out an e-blast about that, a reminder, you cannot do it. And a warning, if you get caught.
We'll take away your
towels. They're using wash rags. That's how we find out the shower is wet, and there's like 10 or 12 wash rags where they've dried themselves.
Don't take away the pants.
So, yeah. So, anyway, we're going to be sending out an e-blast. That's why that's happening. The other one is masks. We've had a lot of our community now get vaccines, and they come walking in, and we say, oh, we need to wear a mask. I'm vaccinated. I don't need a mask. And they try and continue, and we try not to be confrontational, but we go after them. No, here's a mask, put it on, and they'll do this little, oh, if I have to, with their sleeves. So getting a little bit more issues now. Again, we're going to send out an e-blast about that, even though you had your vaccine, for the safety of everyone, for the comfort of everyone.
That's right.
That we need to wear masks. I don't know if you've had your vaccine and you're walking without a mask. So we'll be dealing with that, I'm sure, more and more as time goes on.
I think that's important. I mean,
Very.
we just got our second shot on Saturday, and some people are still working through that. But the reality is, we're still in an environment where things could happen.
Yeah.
So I'm all for any enforcement you can. If you need, there's highway patrol things that they throw down to stash fires.
Well, I looked up all the CDC guidelines on if you have your vaccine, and they're still telling you, and so I'll be quoting the CDC guidelines so that they can see you're still required to wear a mask unless you're with family. The other thing I would like to ask the board is we are still at 50% capacity. Almost all clubs are now at 100% capacity. I would like to ask if we could go up to 65%. I don't think our community is ready for 100% yet, but I would like to inch towards that. We are having to turn people away. We're booked with Mother's Day booked out in an hour and a half. So if we could go to 65%, which would be 120, and again, the capacity is 189, and that would be 120 is what we're looking for all the dining rooms, not just in here. I sent pictures, and you saw that there were big gaps here where we could still put tables in, still do social distancing, but to get a little bit higher.
I was going to say 75%.
I was going to say 75 as well. Could you do 75?
75% would be probably closer to 140 people. If
My own personal feeling is that I'm comfortable with 75%. part of that being, checking on to something that Carl just said, many people in the community have had both shots. I still believe in the mask policy, but I think we can go to 75%. What do you think?
I agree.
I would agree.
I think she
And,
made a
and
good
in those,
presentation.
in those numbers, we're actually counting the outside
Yeah, yeah.
too. When we're doing.
Plus staff,
Yeah.
we're counting staff as well.
We're counting
in that
staff
number.
as well. So it would be 120, or if 75% would be close to 140, would be outside and inside. So it still looks very much social distancing for us.
We need a motion
Need a
then?
motion.
Do we need a motion on that or not?
I would.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we,
I'll second it.
that we go up to 75% capacity. It's been seconded. Any other discussion?
None.
Okay, let's call a vote.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The other one is outside events, not outside, but outside people events. We would like to ask that the board allow us to limit that in our discretion. We've had a couple of weddings that we've lost because a club down the way allows 100% and we can fit all of our people and we can't here, and on a normal time we could. I'd like to see if these outside weddings, outside events, that at our discretion could go up to a higher amount, 90%, maybe even 100 if it's an outdoor wedding. We've had several outdoor ones.
Well, at the 75% number, that was 140.
Yes.
Do you get many events that are booked for more than 140?
We've had 150 is a lot of our weddings are 150.
That's only about a 10% increase.
Well, let me ask you, I'm going through this now in New Jersey, my daughter's wedding. Our personal protection equipment, is it still necessary?
We have at the last, all of the weddings thus far, required masks if you're away from your table and no dancing. We had one where they allowed dancing, but we said you have to wear your mask. And pretty much the staff was policing it the whole night. Excuse me, you have to wear your mask.
Okay.
Down the hallway to the, it's a lot of policing with that. Our members, not so much. They get up and they put their mask on. But with outside events, especially with weddings, because they're family, they're saying, do we really have to have masks? Our staff is taking all precautions. They are still wearing their masks. They're still sanitizing everything with that. So that's another issue on outside events, because it is not a state requirement anymore. I do not believe it's even a county requirement. Do we use that in our discretion for?
Well, what if we were to say outside events at the discretion of the general manager?
I would like to have that.
Everybody good with that?
I am.
Okay, outside discretion at the discretion of the general manager.
Just one caveat, Denise. I think that in that, whatever you have with these outsiders, they have to understand that they're assessing the risk that they're willing to accept as
Yes, and
individuals.
we may even have them sign
Okay.
something that says, I understand it is our we're making this decision to know wear masks and it is our responsibility. That's a good thing.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Before going, I do have a question. A general question, and I'm not looking for an answer today, but something to think about perhaps. So the Mother's Day lunch buffet opened this morning.
Yes.
And it sold out in 1 hour.
Yes.
I'm curious about our reservation system. Is it fair to our residents? Can the average resident get a shot to make a reservation here, or is it always and again, I'm not, maybe not today, but I spoke to Chris. I was here for Easter, and you can book a reservation 10 weeks in ahead. So some people book every Sunday, and then they don't show up.
Are you talking about brunch?
Yeah. So I maybe at another meeting we can have a general discussion about this. I just want to make sure we're being fair to all of our residents.
When we have no-shows like that, one thing I've asked the managers is, mark those people down. I'd like to know who they are. Now, if it's Easter and they do a no-show, they're charged.
They're getting paid.
They're charged. If it's an event where others have not been able to get on because you booked that, and New Year's is famous for that. I'm gonna book 2 tables of 10.
Right.
And the next thing, okay, it's down to 1 a week before. And then right before the 48 hours, they decide to go to the golf club or vice versa. They'll do that, and that's something we strongly discourage.
Yeah, restaurants will book you for those special
Yeah.
events. You can't get, you gotta get a credit card, you're booked.
Yeah.
Well,
But with like brunch,
Yeah.
Our reservation system if all of us at one time went on, it lets you do it at once. Now, the tennis reservation is different. 2 of you go on, and you're touching that court, you're done, you didn't get it. The person went on 1 second before you and they got it. Theirs is a little bit crazier. This dining one, it is a first come, first serve, and it lets you on. It doesn't say, oh, I can't get on, I can't get on. It lets you, what happens is, say we booked out, and this is inevitable, we take a wait list.
Right.
Because you'll have 10, 12 people cancel. And that way, almost every time the wait list gets on.
Now that we've increased your capacity,
We now will
It's gonna-
reopen it.
Reopen it for.
we'll see what you may have on your wait list.
Yeah.
You may be able to satisfy those
Yeah.
folks.
We'll be able to reopen it at that kind of an increase. We now can say there are still reservations available.
That's fine.
And grab the wait list.
Okay.
Okay, I guess my general question is, do we have a reasonably fair system for people?
We do. And the Sunday brunch, you do have those who they'll book it, but most of the time, those who do that, they're here. They're here 2, 3 times a week, and they come to those events. But we do monitor the no-shows for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
We try not to tolerate that. So I did have one more comment. I sent Andy and Belinda and Mr. Bracco some information, and I'm not sure how to move with this, but I sent them 8 pages of paste and copies from emails in the last year of directives from committees. And I put in there that the difficult part is a lot of these directives is for public information. Can you send me a copy of this? Can you send me a copy of that? Can you send me this, send me that? But a lot of it wasn't. A lot of it was, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, and committee members taking my staff around, telling them what needs to be done around the club. And I would just like to, number one, it makes it, I feel like I'm working for the committees, that I'm employed by them and I'm a secretary, because I literally spend probably 4 or 5 hours a week just gathering information, and sometimes it's needed. For example, the Tiki, they need facts, figures, and other committees need information for their committee businesses. But some of it isn't. Some of it is just, do this, do that. Somebody redid a job description and say, we changed the job description, here it is. Telling staff, writing lists of what they want them to do. I'm just at a loss for which way to go on this.
Well, I thought we had discussed at our prior meeting, this very issue. And I thought the board indicated that these individual committee requests on do this, do that to staff were really not appropriate. I don't know how else to say it, Mr. Chairman, but
That's
that's
a fine way to say it. It's not appropriate at all. And being directed by a committee to do this or that, it should come to us,
right?
Really, because the committees are a branch of us. And then if we deem it necessary to the appropriate party to get that information, I feel that's how it should go.
I'll start directing them and saying, not directing them, that's the wrong word.
If-
I'll start directing them. I'll start asking them, could you take that to the board if you want my
Okay,
staff to do that?
I think Belinda experienced the same thing, okay? Walter, I always have to send as the liaison, send a request to Belinda. And my committee members now know, do not go to Belinda with any other requests. I didn't know people were coming to you as well.
Yeah.
And I would say that it should come through the liaison,
Right.
and we make the request to you.
For public information, yes.
Yes, that would be the best way to do it, because we shouldn't burden you down with matters of this nature, okay? And so that's the policy that my committees have been following, because Belinda will say it in a minute, nope, you go for Mr. Booker.
Well, you do, you get it from 5, 6, 7 different individuals, and for that coming through you and then sending it to me. But there are also the directives that's not for public information, just the directive to do things.
Yeah, so I think it's just real simple. Thank you very much. I'm sending your request on to Mr. Booker, Mr. Chorley, Mr. Kleinglass, Mr. Bracco, and Mr. McCaffrey.
Because a lot of times we don't know they're making these.
We don't know.
We had no idea.
All right, that's all I have for River Club. Sales are going great. Dinners are booking up. Everything's going great. It's moving. We've got a light at the end of the tunnel.
Just a comment.
It's not a train.
It's better not be a train.
I came up, I didn't eat here, but I came up for Easter dinner, and why don't you share with everybody how many meals you did and what went on here that day?
I can't remember for Easter, but I know we had 80 some odd
Takeouts. That room was filled with takeout boxes.
Yes, it was sold out in here, and then they also did, I think they did between 100 and 200 at the Tiki bar.
Yeah.
It was packed out, this crazy, crazy, crazy. And the day before was just as bad, because people that's when the guests come for Easter, just like spring break. Those weeks were unbelievably busy, which is a good thing, because our budget numbers, our revenue is finally getting really close to budget. It's getting there, and can't wait to get the March numbers. But it was a lot of compliments. Everybody was happy. I don't think we received one complaint that I know of. It ended up being a very successful.
Well, the other part of it is Mary Ann was standing out here because you couldn't find enough staff to work that day.
We have had several staff call off that weekend. And so Mary Ann worked, Dina, the pool attendant, came in to help out a little bit. I should have, but I was moving that weekend, so I jumped ship, sorry to say. It was very busy with low staff, and yet they did an amazing job.
And how did it work? So the Tiki bar was closed because of staffing. So they opened this window here. How did that go?
That actually went extraordinarily well, but don't ask the bartender, because he was slammed and he was like, wow, that was crazy. There's a to-go window in this bar that we've never, ever, ever used. And Chris came up with the idea of, I can't take a staff member and put them out there, solo out there. So what we did is we advertised saying, come to the window for your bar. And that bartender then would serve a member here. He'd turn around, do the Tiki people. And he was right there doing both sides. It was very busy for him. But he made good tips for us, so he was happy. And actually, I mentioned it to Bob Ruffato, since the board voted, to go no kitchen, that's an opportunity to maybe do something like buy those buzzers. You order, here's your buzzer. We'll buzz you when your food's ready, and you come pick it up, because this running all the way back out of the street. And I think using this to-go window is going to be something we do more often, since it was so successful, especially at Easter. It was really a great idea of Chris's to use that.
Well, it was just nice to see the volume of people here, the crowds at the pool. It was just a nice day for folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith?
Yes, please, real quick. I'll keep Lou here for a few minutes just to get his expertise. We've been working on the traffic hawk, and that type of thing. I had a gentleman here in my office last week, and we talked about, we were talking about a new system out at the gatehouse with the computers and what he does. And he's the traffic hawk guru. That's where we got the traffic hawk.
The real one or the fake one?
Well.
Strike that.
And so I had talked to him about stop signs and what we could do at stop signs, because the stop signs here at the Venetian are just a suggestion. And, we don't.
That's the way most people treat them.
And so they have a system, and he's going to he's going to put it into the traffic hawk for a couple months, a month, to see if we like it. And you can set it up at the stop sign, and it records whether you stop or you blow that stop sign. And we're just going to see what the numbers are. And Lou is going to head that up, him and the traffic committee for the POA, and he's been a tremendous help, and I'm thankful that he's here spearheading that. So we'll let you know what the numbers are, and then it could be something that we'll have to purchase, to go, it's another program to go into it.
You gotta try it out.
We're gonna try it out for free.
It can pick up golf carts as well.
Yeah, you blow a stop sign going X amount of miles an hour, it'll pick you up and record you. But, golf carts, there's no numbers on them, so they're unless we have your smiling face on it.
But you can put, have you seen this person?
Well, yeah.
Well,
Keith's my buddy.
So, I'll get back with you when that numbers come in and see if that's what you want to explore. And then, of course, the POA would send out nice little letters, and, poor Melissa will get, some more hate mail or hate calls about not stopping at stop signs. So, but other than that,
good.
If I may just add one thing on the golf cart issue. In our declarations, we have the authority to oversee the golf carts and under traffic and everything. I live in a beach community that we have golf carts, and I was responsible for registering the golf carts, and we bought stickers for them. It's something I would like to put together a proposal to the next season, because I'm going to be leaving, to consider is people registering their golf carts in the community.
Okay.
No cost, no nothing like that, nothing about insurance or all that kind of stuff, but they would get a number so that if there is a violation, we can identify the cart.
I think we should consider it, because there's I don't know how big the problem is, but I know I live on Portofino, and I'm coming up Pizarro, and there are people just blowing. If I'm coming from the club, there's people blowing right through that intersection in golf carts, because they go, I don't see anything this way. They're not looking this way, and they just blow right through. So I think it's a good item for us to consider.
Well, more importantly, I've seen them with the 4-year-old or the 5-year-old driving, and they're sitting there holding the door. Okay, I saw that yesterday, and that's going to be a major problem. I've seen them turn the car over, the golf cart over on Portofino.
One issue at a time.
Okay?
I'd like to get
But the thing is, we don't want to be a police community.
No, but registering the carts is a good idea.
I want to be reasonable, but
and
everybody
I've said on that
about
stuff.
all this kind of stuff together, and we'll certainly.
Everybody understands that there are privately owned carts in the community that are not golfers.
Correct.
It's a handy way to get around the community. So the violations, I'll admit that the violations are there, and then we have people that rent them too. So you have to deal with that. But registering the carts, I certainly would support that.
Yep.
Anything else?
You're not off the hook. I got a question to ask. You and I talked privately about this, but if you could just apprise the board, you had indicated some time ago, you were working with FedEx, they had their own, I don't know, RFID, or they had their
Their
own
entry system.
buzzers to come in and open the gates.
Right.
How is that working?
From the indication, it's not working at all. I've talked with, Chris at the gate, and they're still having to open up because it's not working. Their system isn't. So I've contacted the gentleman that, would bug me to death to get the system installed. And he said he's passing it all up the line. I've talked to him 3 times about it. It's here, it's not working. What are we doing? And I've turned it over to the people that are supposed to be taking care of it, and they say they're going to get down there and fix it. As of last week, when I talked to Chris at the front gate about it, he said it's still not. So he's still having to open the gate and let it in, so.
Well, it's on their dime at this point, right?
Oh, yeah, it's always been on their dime. They haven't, we haven't been charged anything.
Is it FedEx?
It's Prime.
Oh, it's Prime, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Brian.
Prime, yeah, okay.
I got it wrong.
Any other questions for Keith? Okay.
Linda, you're up.
And I will announce that the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors is scheduled for Monday, April 26th, 2021. Few updates I do have. We have been working on the document production for the city, Venetian versus the city on the hydraulic fuel spills. It has been definitely a journey with this document production, and now we are working on the responses. We did ask for an extension. We were granted a 60-day extension so that we could complete the responses. So Rich and I are working on the responses, and we should be able to submit them within the next week or so, hopefully, depending on what other information is required. But this has been extensive, and we are hoping just to wrap it up soon. Requests for public records. We have received multiple requests for public records, particularly for pickleball. A lot of requests for meetings. I did want to ask you, are you posting committee meeting minutes to your website?
Yes, as soon as I get them from Carrie.
Okay.
When Carrie sends them to me, she says, Denise, can you post them? I get them to Mary Ann, and they're up usually within 24 hours.
Okay, because a lot of the requests are for the minutes of the Racket and Sports Committee and the Facilities Committee. So once I think we will send people back to your website so that they can obtain the minutes directly from there. The district minutes, obviously, they would have to request through me, but there's been a lot of document requests and a lot of misinformation as well. I try to streamline as much as I can, but I'm not sure where a lot of the inaccuracies are coming from. So I did want to report that to the board as well. We are also already working on the proposed budget. Denise already has her template. I've already started working on the general fund budget as well. We do need to decide when we are going to hold a budget workshop, so I would need for the supervisors to send me potential dates, because we do have to advertise the workshop even though it is a workshop.
Okay, what month do you want to do it?
I would suggest, in May, we only have.
Just one meeting in May.
One meeting in May. I would suggest we hold a regular meeting, but the workshop we need to hold close to the end of May, because we expect to have the proposed budget ready for, actually, I was gonna ask the board to move the June 14th meeting in June to June 7th, because that will only give me one day to submit the proposed budget, which is
Okay.
very tight.
Well, we can
So-
agree to that right now.
Yes, so we would be moving the June 14th meeting to June 7th.
June 7th, right?
Yes. And then the workshop, we do have a meeting scheduled for May 10th. We can hold the workshop. The only days I really cannot are the 20th, the 21st. And then we also have Memorial Day during those days, but the last week of May is really busy for me. So I would suggest the week of the 17th through the 21st.
All right, why don't you pick a date that's convenient for you, and we'll try to work around that as best we possibly can.
Would the board be open to having the workshop on a Friday instead of a Monday?
I would. I'm fine.
As long as it's in the morning.
Friday, May 21st?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I just have to look, as you probably.
Yes, I
aware, at
understand.
My schedule.
That's
Yes,
not
yes.
near week, I mean, well, that's not near Memorial Weekend.
It is right before Memorial
Ooh,
Weekend.
Linda.
It's the Friday before Memorial.
Oh, I'll be calm.
Then we can probably do it the 14th or the 28th.
I'm good. I'm good either
I'm not
time.
good for the 14th,
What-
but
What day is the 28th, Belinda?
A Friday.
Friday. It's okay.
Oh, no, I'm away. I leave the 11th.
can we do the 19th? That's a Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm back.
The 19th?
We can't do Monday, the 17th? Mondays are usually.
Well, I won't be here.
Won't be there.
I can do the 17th.
Well, I can't.
I can do the 17th, 18th, 19th,
19th would be perfect.
Can we do the 19th then?
the 19th.
What day of the week, what day of the week?
It's
is it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
A Wednesday.
At
and
what
do a
time?
workshop, 9:30?
Can we do it at 10?
10
Do it
is
at
fine.
10?
10 a.m.?
Sure.
Should ran into traffic. Yes.
So say the date again, May?
May 19th, it's a
10
Wednesday.
a.m.
So I'm just gonna recap. We're gonna hold, the budget workshop on May 19th at 10 a.m. We're going to move, the June 14th meeting to June 7th. That'll give us enough time for the board to hold the public hearing for the budget if necessary. Then we move forward and we can submit the budget on time. June 14th doesn't give me much time to have all of the resolutions done, enter all the information. So I think June 7th would give me enough time.
10 o'clock?
Hmm?
10 or 9:30?
June 7th, 9:30. That's our regular meeting.
Linda, would you send that in an email because Rick's not here?
I will.
Right,
What
just-
I'll do is I'll have Carrie, send out the dates for
Great.
everyone.
Great.
And then she'll send out an invite.
Okay,
And
perfect.
How much time will we allow for that meeting, starting at 10 to?
Well.
This is my first time and
Well,
my first rodeo.
be prepared for the meeting to last a couple of hours.
It
The
shouldn't be-
workshop, so please bring a snack because for sure we,
Yeah.
Well, wait a
I think
second.
the last
River Club
workshop
will be
was-
open, we can
We're
order.
open, we can order.
the last
Yeah,
one
come
was
on.
3.5 hours, I believe, so. we-
Okay, I'm just trying to put it general.
Yeah, you figure it's going to be 3 hours or
Yeah,
something like that.
I would
Right.
figure 3 hours
Yeah.
for the workshop,
That would work. Okay.
okay? And that's all I had. Any questions for me?
I want to just say thank you. I don't know if the other supervisors, I'm sure you realize how hard Belinda works, but she and I and Rick Shoppenshire have been dealing with the oil spill situation. As the pickleball situation is also on the front burner, and she has been working overtime on all of this, and I certainly appreciate everything that she's done.
Thank you. Supervisor request or comments? Any supervisor request or comments?
I have one.
Okay.
One or two. Getting back to pickleball and dog park, you wanted an update on that call. May 11th, the city council will take on our appeal for the denial that we got from the planning board. I want to make one statement regarding the planning board. There has been some misinformation or misinterpreting comments that were made by the chair of the planning commission. And in no way did the chair of the planning commission say that the Venetian had too many amenities and that we don't need any more. There was a thought that that had been said at our meeting in February when we were denied, but in reviewing the tape from the meeting, Rick Shoppenshire reviewed it, I reviewed it, and there was no statement along that line made whatsoever by the chair that we had too many amenities here. So that was something I have since apologized to the chair for saying, or I'm not sure if I ever did say that statement was made, but because of the feeling that was going on, I have apologized to the chair of the Planning Commission for that misunderstanding. We're moving ahead with that appeal, and we'll see where it goes. It's an open meeting. Hopefully there'll be a lot of resident comments there on both sides, and we'll see what the city council says about our appeal, and that's to use the area of the where the FPL easement is. The understanding that all of us have is that if we're denied use of that area, we can't even build a dog park there.
Oh, okay.
So that is one of the major reasons why we're pushing forward with it. Pickleball may wind up being in another location, possibly, but and then it may wind up being there. We don't know. They may say, go ahead, you can build it there. We don't know what that's going to mean. But if we don't get approval to use that area, we will not be able to put the dog park there either. So.
And that's May 11th, Rich?
That's May 11th, yes. I don't have a time yet, but
Okay.
it is May 11th. And Rick covered the oil spill. That's moving on. They're going to be resurfacing Balanza and Treviso within the next 10 days or so. It was going to start earlier, but then the city wanted to do their core drilling to get samples, which they're allowed to do, because if we just pave those streets without giving the city the opportunity to come out, that would be, in our attorney's words, hiding evidence, because we will have blacktopped it all over. So we have to legally let the city come out and take a look, but we are going to proceed with the milling and the paving of those streets. And that's about all.
I think about 2 weeks ago, Carol and I were out on some errands, and I actually drove into that area, and I saw one person walking down a dog, maybe on Balanza Court, and I said, because I was out of touch at that point, and I said, have you seen any paving going on here? He says, I don't know, I'm just visiting.
I'm new here.
So I knew it hadn't happened at that point. But Rich knows I like to take photographs.
Yes.
Stuff's happening. I have a couple of comments, if
Certainly.
it's okay to proceed.
Absolutely.
3 comments. One, I don't know if any of the other supervisors has received complaints on the basketball hoop being in the parking spaces and next to the tennis players, taking up parking spaces, and then the noise that comes from that relative to the tennis players participating. But I've received a couple. It's just a general comment on my standpoint.
Okay, none.
I'll just.
The next one, I think, goes to you, Steve. I think you're handling the CDD and River Club reserve accounts at Fidelity.
I am.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
So Rich, I know David Lusty in the past used to, send out to the supervisors, the statement that he got from Fidelity.
Oh, I can do that.
Can you do that?
Yeah, it's on automatic. It was just rolled over the other day. But yes, I can send it out.
So my last comment is personal. Talk to Rich, talk to Andy, talk to Roy about this, but it's really no secret from a lot of people. I've been receiving cancer treatments. Excuse me. Since March. They're supposed to go through August 4th. I'm feeling pretty good right now. Got a lot of friends and support. I just want the committee, the board in particular, to know that's what's going on with me. I do see some conflicts. One, for example, I've already notified Linda Catera that I cannot participate in my liaison work this Wednesday because I'm going to be in a chair at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's not going to work. And Rich, I know you gave to each one of us the Zoom meeting responsibilities for the POA. I probably missed mine because I thought there was one in April for me. If you could send me, if you know what those assignments are.
Yes, okay.
But as I think everyone who knows me, I'm working forward. The newsletter's going out. I'm following up on key items, and just appreciate everybody's support, but know that's going on for me. And for those who haven't seen it yet, don't cry for me, Portofino.
Carl, we're all behind you. You know, we've spoken privately about this.
Right.
You and I have, again, prayers and positive energy to you. You have a good attitude toward this. You haven't lost a sense of humor, and God bless.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Ernest. Thank you, Scott.
Against Carl, my prayers go out to you.
Thank you, thank you.
You have risen to the occasion. One of the good times I had was at the pool, and I'm at the pool when I happened to run into another supervisor. It was Carl.
We were talking about lunch.
Yeah, we were talking about lunch, and he had his whole family out there. We just had a good time. It was a birthday party or something, and it was a good celebration. Let me start first with the basketball. Okay, most of the tennis participants are involved with my committee, and they full-heartedly support the placement of the basketball court there. The hours are from 12 to 6 purposely, so we don't disturb any of the playing going on. Now, one day, about last week or so, 2 weeks ago, I walked by and it was a lady, elderly lady out there taking pictures. I said, oh my God, here's another complaint. So I approached her, of course, that's the way I am. I said, what's going on here? So she said, oh, I'm taking pictures. I said, why? She says, for my grandson. I'm sending it to him so he'll come visit me now. I love it, okay? And she was so cute. And we've been getting positive responses for the placement of that basketball court. We are not a 55-plus community. That makes the statement over there.
All right.
The dog park, Rich. I had a conversation with somebody who's going to probably that had involvement with the dog park from the city. We can build that dog park there. We messed up by bungling it. He said, precedent has been set. There's a dog park down the street. The city would have, if we presented it again by itself, it's going to get approved. There's no doubt about that. And I was told that by one.
Rick and I have had that conversation.
Yeah, so I believe that it will get done. So happy to see Denise. We missed you while you were out. Welcome back, and we missed you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm also happy to see that daytime is working.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean. There's a lot of animosity, and I kept referring to it today, all around this tennis issue. Okay, it's working itself out. Okay, people, reasonable minds will make reasonable decisions, and we're making progress there. I'm glad to see you there. I'm also glad to see Roy, dear here, as well as Kyle Nelson. Welcome, Kyle. We get a chance to meet him to supplement and provide a backup as the case may need here for our management. And you see the nature of our community. It's a very vibrant community, and everyone has an opinion. So welcome on. I'm sure other places are like that as well. The pool, we have our problems there at the pool. People playing football in the pool and all. We had to address it. Denise, thanks for that blackboard sign there where they wrote no ball play. Okay.
I think we're going to try and get a permanent thing because we want to, when there's a water class, put that up and different things, you know, do not bring your own alcohol. Rules just every week a different rule.
Oh, it was a brilliant idea. It works. I think it serves the purpose because I had to confront these guys. And I said, look, the pro scouts are out here looking in this pool.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
and it's guests usually, and
it's
unfortunately
always
the
guests.
members don't, always explain all the rules to the guests. It's
Right.
not always members, it's usually their guests who just don't know the rules.
Yeah, but when they see the sign,
Yeah, it helps.
okay, so other than that, Paradise is doing well.
Judge, it was brought to my attention that the sign out by the tennis hoop, no parking from 12 to 6:30, and then I think it says basketball in session or something, but it was vague on when the basketball hours really were. These were mainly no parking. So I'm gonna do another sign separate that basketball can be played from. We've had people there at 8 AM. And, again, prime time for tennis,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I need to make something very distinct, basketball playing during these times. I would like to see if we could change the hours from, instead of 12 to 6:30, 12 to dusk, because it's gonna be where it's not getting dark till 8:30. And I saw a mom with her little boy out there at 6:30, and I didn't want to say, no, time to stop,
Yeah.
So the sign that I put up, if it's all right with the board, I'd like to put dusk. I don't want anybody playing out there at night, but I'd like them to be able to play, especially in the
nice.
summer. Now, in the wintertime, the sign may need to be changed till 5. It gets dark at 5, and if we don't want them out at dark, or do we, if it's dusk, it's gonna be okay that way. But if we keep the 6:30, then in the winter, yeah, they'll be playing till, an hour and a half after dark.
Carl, you need to come on out there and hoop it up.
I will.
Good.
Challenge you to a game of horse.
Okay, horse, okay.
Any other comments?
All right,
All right.
thanks.
So it is now 12:57 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 12:57 PM. Thank you, everybody.
I start my next meeting at 1 here, 2.